like to call the Village Council July 29, 2021 work session to order. I show we have a quorum, not a full quorum, with Bob on Zoom, and I believe Jamie's missing today. Everyone else is here. That said, we need a motion to consider allowing council members to participate remotely.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up is adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions, changes, or
I have a subtraction.
a subtraction?
Yes.
Subtractions are good.
Okay, well, I figured you guys like a subtraction. I would like to take off the closed session because I think we need to do that when everybody is here. So if we can move that to the regular meeting.
Absolutely.
So defer to the regular meeting.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? Bob, do you have anything?
No, I'm good, sir.
Okay. Andy?
No.
All right, I'll need a
Joe?
motion. I don't have anything. I'll need a motion to move, to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Pass. Motion passes. First up, we see presentations, nothing. Village Hall Furniture Selection Report.
Oh, can I get your board? Do you want me to get the board, Christina?
Everybody's all excited.
I know. I saw it. I didn't
Get it?
found it because I couldn't tell through a phone photo what it looks like. So,
Exciting.
Christina, you feeling all right? I can't hear you.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Hold on.
There we go.
There you
Can
go.
you hear me?
Yep.
Yo.
Good morning.
I feel fine. I know I don't look fine, but I feel fine.
I definitely don't look fine. And normally I don't feel fine.
Oh, so did you get that email that I sent you about the furniture?
Yeah, I've got it. We've got it pulled up on the computer, ready to share.
This is what
Oh, you don't even need to look at it.
Yeah,
We
I-
picked it
I
out.
think
Yeah, just the two things I pulled
So
up.
furniture, this is, which is the top? The light is the top, right? Or is this the top?
Yeah, yeah.
This is the top.
No, yeah, that's the side, that's the top.
Okay.
Yep.
Chairs, porch ceiling, trim, that looks nice, doors, walls, that's the floor. Council chambers is missing.
No, it's not.
Oh, did it fall?
Yeah, it's that. Yeah, it's that
No,
one.
it's, no, this is
Broke it.
the electrum. Okay,
Yeah,
so-
wait, council
There's
what?
nothing there, it says council chair. It's
Oh,
in
we don't have the
leather.
chair, do we? We don't have the sample of the chair?
I don't have that leather.
Okay.
Couldn't find a sample of the pleather.
So that lime green that we picked, it's so pretty.
Kinda like that umbrella.
I'm moving stuff around.
So Austin's gonna pull up the furniture selection the design committee,
I gotta move the top screen.
picked out. We did
Sounds
remove the lobby rooms from furniture, so we'll have to get that somewhere else unless we can get a better selection from the vendor, because we just weren't happy with what they had selected for the lobby.
I thought you just sent us stuff yesterday that we said we liked.
Yeah, I haven't got the price from them yet.
Oh, okay. Did you like that stuff?
So that's not included in what you're seeing now.
What?
So
What'd you say?
what you're seeing now is that furniture selection that we had saw yesterday for the lobby. I have not included that because I haven't
Okay.
yet got the price.
Okay.
So just FYI, Kim asked me to reach out to a guy that does woodwork here in Marvin, in a little shop. And I caught him in time in the sense that he said he hasn't cut up all the wood for firewood yet because he hadn't heard from me. But
The wood from Publix.
wood from Publix. So some of the big trees that were taken out of Publix, which is a commercial area, he took them and was going to do something with them, create some tables and stuff like that. I was thinking it'd be cool if we could have him do something or commission him to do something to donate, like, and create, hey, this was from our first commercial area, and maybe use it for the lobby or something like that. But just keep that in mind as we're looking at furniture. It'd be kind of cool I know we talked about artifacts from Marvin. This may be a piece of Marvin, if you will. So,
Good idea, Joe.
but he's. Oh wait.
I like that.
You're actually saying I have a good idea.
Yes, you have a good idea.
Ideas are free every time, every once in a while, one comes out and it works.
That's good, yeah.
Um,
I like that.
So anyway, so he's very open to that. He's not necessarily, I think I talked to Kim about having someone call him for Marvin Day, which is next year. But I think he's open to that. And I think Kim, at some point, her and I will go over and see what he has and see what he could do. But if there's somewhere in the building that you would like to put a piece that may be on display or something, we could
I
do
think
that.
like a coffee table would be cool.
Coffee
Because
table?
we're gonna have a coffee table, aren't we, Christina? Wasn't there a coffee table
Yeah, we
slated?
can add more in the front room.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So instead of asking, wow, I don't know. It's
All right, we'll
just
work that out.
Okay.
Okay, keep going, Austin.
What are we?
This is Christina's.
I know, but you're scrolling.
Show you that.
Tell me what you want, Christina.
So this real quick on this, we did change the dais layout, so y'all see it in the middle of the floor. It's a lot more elaborate than what we had initially planned, and just an L-shaped table, so it looks really good. You can keep going. Like next page. Or, yeah, so this is what the reception furniture would look like in the room right when you come in the front door to the left. You can keep going.
Is that the reception area?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Keep going. That'll be the front room right public meeting room.
When you walk in the door to the right, like where the planner kind of public meeting room, right?
I'm not gonna
Correct.
know what to do
Yeah.
with real furniture.
And these colors are a little bit hard to see on the screen, but that board that Councilmember Vandenberg has, you can see a little bit better.
And Hunter, you looked at that table? That's a good table for putting out plans and stuff like that, I assume?
Yeah, just any type of board table like this to, just sit down and talk.
Are we repurposing this?
Yes, in the
okay.
very back left room.
Conference
Okay.
room, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's good with me.
I know, Christina. I know. I understand. I know.
Keep going.
Trust me, it's age, I forget quick.
That's a good excuse.
You still need to keep going.
But it's
I'm
actually
trying to
what
get
all
back into
the
my world
office
here.
furniture looks like.
I'm fishing on my brain.
Okay,
I'm listening.
you don't even need to listen. Andy and Bob, you guys listen. Joe's already seen all this stuff.
This is basically what all the office furniture is gonna look like.
Greasy.
Keep going.
That's for Hunter.
Woo.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo,
I'm
it's
jealous.
exciting.
I want one of
Table with
those.
tilts.
Tilt table. They call this a tilt table.
Yeah, that's nice.
You can keep going.
That's me there. That's Christina.
Keep going. Keep going. That's what all the staff chairs are gonna look like. Keep going. There you go. That's the most important part. That's what your dais is gonna look like from the aerial, and then go down one more. It should have an actual picture of it. Yeah. And that's not the color of the wood. We're waiting on a wood sample for it.
Yeah, because the guy just said he will create a sample for us and give us a good idea, because he can stain it pretty much, or,
That's kind of similar to Wesley Chapel's setup, right?
That board has the color of the wood. It's not going to be exact because it's actually going to be on wood, and the sample that you have there is on plastic. But you can kind of see what we chose for the actual color.
And it won't be that color that's on the screen.
Keep going.
Those are chairs for.
Yeah.
Yeah, those will be the chairs that everyone sits in, and this will be where all the planning board meetings and the PRG meetings and stuff take place. You can keep going. Those are the chairs that we'll have in the chambers themselves for the audience. Those are the back conference rooms.
That's where this table will go, Joe.
Okay.
In that room.
Yep.
With those chairs.
so that's our own conference table.
Yes.
Close
Close
session.
That's primarily for closed sessions and that sort of thing, probably staff meetings. And you keep going. Black rocking chair on the
That's
patio.
for Joe. Sit on the front porch.
My coffee.
I'll take my lunch on the road.
Telling fishing stories
You want me to go to the other document?
as you shoot me.
That's the, you know, that's pricey.
Oh, that's cool.
Point clear.
I like them. I think they'll fit well. Otherwise,
Everything that you see there is approximately $100,000. You can pull up that quote. Austin, I think it says 101.
Yeah, it's down there. You gotta scroll down.
And then the lobby furniture will be in addition to that once we select what that's gonna be. So we're gonna proceed with that purchase. We did get you all to designate this to the design committee for the actual design. So unless anybody has any oppositions, I'm gonna proceed with the purchase order for this, what you're seeing here.
I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm good with it. Look, they all look
I think
great.
we should start over. I decided I don't like it.
So that being said, if I can get a motion, just so I can make sure y'all are on the same page, and that'd be great.
I'd like to make a motion to move forward with the furniture selection for Village Hall as presented.
Further discussion. All's in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Hi.
Motion passes unanimously. Next up on the agenda, we have items of discussion. Discussion 2022 Marvin Day celebration. What do we got?
That's us. Okay, I'll run it. Sorry. Okay, sorry. So we had a really good work session meeting on Tuesday morning. We got a lot more accomplished. Kind of, you know, are hammering out more of the details. We are working on a possible logo, and these were some of the ones that we came up with. So that's the heel splitter. That was my favorite, but it looks like it's from the beach.
It
So
looks like a clam.
it is. That's what a heel splitter is,
Okay.
or a mussel, or something.
It's a muscle.
It's a mussel, yeah. But anyway, but that's too beachy. So we're gonna go with some sort of combination of Marv, the cute little owl, and the trees. So they're gonna work up some additional logos so that we can look at them next time. Oh, yeah.
And we put Marv the horse out to pasture.
Yeah, Marv's going out to pasture.
A horse.
Okay, so that cute little owl, and then those trees
Yeah,
down
why
in the
do you
bottom.
have-
So we're
why
gonna do
the
some
owl
sort of
over the
combination of those two and work up some additional options.
Any reason an owl over a horse? Just curious.
Because the horse is too. It needs to be like cartoony, and the horse is too.
Do a better horse then.
Well, that's not what we like. So if you guys don't like it, I can email Christina and have her do some. Everybody liked the owl. It was really cute. Marv the owl. It was really cute.
Everybody is in the
Park Trek and Greenway.
Park Trek.
Yep.
I guess we don't have an opinion.
Nope.
PRG and
We
nothing.
Not today, you
We
don't.
eventually will have an opinion.
Not today, you
Okay,
won't.
We're just listening.
Yeah, okay.
But I'll email Christina and tell her to work up some like fun horse ideas.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I'm all about
Hunter, will
the
you do
fun
that?
part.
Do you
I
have
just,
Christina's? Not that Christina, the other Christina.
I can get it.
Okay.
Kim, I'm all about the fun part. I just think that we have a lot of horse people in our community. I think representing.
But we also have a lot of owls in the community for the wildlife.
I
Lots
know,
and
I
lots
hear
of
'em
owls.
every
I
day.
know. That's why we thought the owl would be cute.
Yeah, it would be.
All right, we'll work up some horses too. We'll bring them
I'm gonna
back.
put a horse with an owl riding on its back.
Yes, that's cute. I love that. Okay.
I'm full of ideas
I love
today.
Good one.
Joe and I are on a roll today.
So we're moving right along. There's really not much.
So you're basically discussing what all is going to happen. So
Yes.
have we,
We're still talking to people.
definitely no parade, right? Not
No
the first
parade,
year. Okay.
not the first year. We're not gonna do a parade. The biggest thing that we're waiting on, not waiting on, but we're trying to nail down before we really start locking other groups and people down, is getting back word from the high school. Apparently, the principal has left. We've got a new principal at the high school
Yeah.
coming in. John
Who's
Barisic.
very familiar with, he's worked with
Yes.
everyone.
Yes, but John Barisic has left a message or two for him, has not heard back. So until we kind of nail down the kind of end of day location, we're still planning, but we're not locking down specifics yet.
Okay. Talked about a concert
Yeah.
type thing.
which will be at the high school, hopefully.
Talked about a car show,
Yep,
which still couldn't potentially.
I'm
happen.
sure that, yeah.
And-
Bob's got that. We
You got a
we,
car too that you can
I talked to John about it, and I've also called a couple of my cronies, so I mean, we can put it on. We can
Perfect.
have motorcycles, we can have exotic cars.
love it.
John has,
So we're going beyond the community, and just to be clear, we're going beyond the community of Marvin that has cars. It's not just the cars of Marvin.
Sure.
Okay, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
it can get big. Well, you do that, and I'm telling you,
let me take that back.
you can get 100 cars or more.
Cars, a majority of the cars actually are going to be by Marvin residents, quite a few, especially motorcycles.
I'd really like to focus on that, you know, because
Yeah.
this can get real. I've been to the
Well-
car shows here, and before long, the one they
Well-
have there is over 100 people come in.
I don't think that I think we're gonna cap it. Because we're probably gonna, I'm envisioning having it during the day at the high school, because that's the biggest.
Mornings are best.
Yes, if you're gonna be
Which
Early
would
morning
be during the
best.
day,
Yeah.
not
No,
at
no, I'm just saying
night.
early morning is best.
Okay,
Well, if we're at
For
the
a
high
car
school,
show?
we could get
Yes.
100 cars in
Why?
the car show. At
Because
high
it
school.
gets hot out there, and all those guys do is sit out there. I'm just telling you, it's best in the
Okay,
morning for a car
alright.
show.
Yeah.
Just
Alright.
trust me
Because
on
we're
that.
on asphalt over there, so it'll
Yep.
get hot.
Yep.
okay.
So
There's not much
morning
shade.
would be good.
All right, so we'll have the car show early AM, like right after whatever our fun walk down trail situation is gonna be.
Yep.
Okay, that's it. We're still just,
Still deciding.
Yeah.
Okay.
but we'll put some more logos together
Yep.
with a owl riding a horse.
There you go.
Any other ideas or suggestions from council?
So I've got a year to build a car putting this show.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
less than, because it's gonna be in May, so
I
you
gotta
better get
on
to
this
it.
then.
Less than a year.
Chop chop, Buttercup.
All right. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
Next up, discuss and consider adoption of ordinance amending the general fund budget for various parks, transportation, and public safety revisions. Christina? We're on mute. Hold on.
We can't hear you.
Alright, that was me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull the actual ordinance up right now, but, recollect from a week long memory. Basically, Derek needs some assistance with UTV repair. He does have money in his emergency line items, but it's so early in the year that we didn't want to use all of it up on that. Curb and gutter repairs did not get 100% complete in last year's budget, so we need to move that money back around. And then, Austin, can you tell me what the other things that were on there were?
You have the contract with Union County Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, there was a slight increase in that, like $1,500.
You have the off-duty control.
Yeah, that's just to balance that.
You said you got the emergency repairs, Marvin Day, park projects.
Yeah, that's the disc golf. Derek didn't spend all of his money in the disc golf last year, so he's asking for that to be reappropriated. Some of that money that was in Derek's budget would have gone back to fund balance once the year end closes. And I provided all that documentation in your agenda packet so that you could see what was prior committed and then what he actually spent. So just asking for an approval on that.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
Are there any questions that anyone has?
Nope.
No.
Andy?
Nope.
Okay.
So do you want a motion for that right now, Christina?
Yes, ma'am.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve, or to adopt the ordinance amending the general fund budget for various parks, transportation, and public safety revisions as presented.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Next up, we have discuss and consider appointment of applicant to the Board of Adjustments as a regular member for term expiring 3/1/2023.
Okay, we only have one applicant. His name is Roger Nielsen. I don't know if you had a chance to reach out to him or not, but he says he's interested in serving on the Board of Adjustment. They only meet, as needed, so they don't meet often.
Has anyone reached out to him?
No.
I've been away, so I did not get a chance to call him, and so it's a board that, again, I don't think, we've enacted in the last 5 years maybe once.
They met last November.
Yeah, they've only met one time since I've been on the board.
Right. So they don't meet a lot, but, you know, he's been a resident. I don't know how long, it doesn't say. But, given there's a space open, only one offered, I mean, but again, I haven't talked to him, so it's up to you guys. If you want to make a motion to bring him on, or table it and just approve it in the regular meeting, and everyone has a chance to actually reach out to him. What do you guys want to do?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to, again, I don't like to vote on things in the work sessions, so
Right, so let's do this, let's
make
table
this as a presentation of the application, and let's
Yep.
make an
So
effort to call him before
You guys
the
can
next meeting.
reach out.
You too.
This is- I will. No, I don't vote on it.
It doesn't matter.
I know.
Okay. All right,
Put
perfect.
that aside. Okay. So,
Okay.
do we need a motion for that?
You don't.
No.
Okay. All right.
Bob's like, okay.
Okay. Next up, discuss and consider amending the Marvin Heritage District Strategic Plan Committee Rules of Procedure, changing the number of members from 9 to 7.
Do we have 7 right now?
Yes.
And we're looking, we had the open one, and then we just had the person have to resign because she moved.
Yeah, we've had no interest in this. We've had no interest in these positions. We had one incomplete application received, and that person has not gotten back in touch with me. The committee was originally designed as a 7-member board, and we increased it to 9
Because we had
to.
so many applications, right, okay.
And their work's going to be done in a couple months
Okay.
anyway.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
Bob, do you have a problem with doing that? Okay.
Not at all.
We only have a couple more meetings that we're gonna have with this board anyway, so what
Okay.
is it, Hunter, maybe 3 or 4?
Yeah,
Something
I'll
like
kind of
that.
touch base. It kind of depends on the discussion here later, but
And-
with that being said, I don't know then what the intent of the board is further
Yeah.
than that.
Just
So
out
I
of
think-
curiosity, and
right.
I forget, refresh my memory, do we have any council member that is the liaison for that? You are, okay.
Yeah. So, but yeah, shrinking it down to 7 is not a problem.
Okay.
That's still plenty of people.
Better chance of getting a quorum, too.
quorum, so-
Okay.
The committee's only objectives was the form-based code and their the strategic plan.
Okay.
So
so-
Okay, so I'm gonna, do we just want to move this to the consent agenda to do that? Can we do that?
it's up to you. It's not.
Instead of voting on it now?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
Just fine, yeah,
Yeah, so let's just move that to the consent agenda.
that's fine.
all right. Next up, we have discussion of annexation local bill.
Oh, I love this. This was great. Did you write that memo?
Me and Rohit did. Yeah.
Ah, it was really good.
We had a good before he left us. We had a good hour and a half powwow workshop on this,
It was really, really
and
well done.
me and Hunter's been working on it since refining.
Really well done. I was excited about it. I don't know about anybody else, but I was excited about it.
Not as.
No, I agree too. I thought it was well put together.
And all of the reasons are like so
Yeah.
true and important, and yeah,
Do you guys want us to pull the memo and map up or anything on the screen?
yeah, sure.
I just emailed it to you. So basically, what we're
Which one do you want to have up on the screen?
we can. Do you want to have the memo or just the map for now?
Let's go over the memo first, all the reasons why, and then we can look at the map.
So what we're asking for today is you guys to give us some direction on whether this is something you want to pursue, and part of that is kind of confirming the reasoning behind this. And this is what we have so far. Depending on what you decide here, we'll provide more detail. We'll get dollar amounts to put into these arguments. We'll do some more research to really refine it some more. But your reasoning that we have in here so far is traffic and road infrastructure.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure
You're
out
good.
what the best way to, so everybody can see it, but there you go.
You're good. From the amount of money that the village has put into the roundabouts, other infrastructure improvements. You guys are talking about taking over Newtown Road at some point. from additional roundabouts that will be constructed in the future. We're approaching $1 million.
That's a lot. And having some extra,
That's one full budget, year's budget,
Yeah.
so.
yeah, so having, some extra,
Not to
Tax
say
income
that
would be nice.
we were a source for years for a notary
Yeah,
for
yeah.
non-residents.
that's-
I mean, that's a big deal because when you have to go to the bank and make appointments, sit there and stuff, whereas used to be able to come right here and just get it done and,
well, we still can.
well, yeah, residents can, so.
I mean, I think this is smart. I think this is well thought out, well done. So what would be kind of the next step? Just kind of start talking to Todd and David about this?
Yes. We also want you guys to look at determine the scope of the bill. Like, where do you want this annexation to extend to?
Oh, so you want us to
But
hit
this
on
is-
the map?
Yeah, I do.
You're saying this is essentially forced annexation.
This is asking the General Assembly to annex properties into Marvin, mainly focusing on the donut holes.
But I understand, everybody across North Carolina, just so you know, everyone across North Carolina, we all have the same issues. They all have donuts. This is not just a Marvin problem. So the state is what came down and said no more forced annexation. So I guess how do you,
Do you want me?
Please.
yeah,
So I'd say, with the state changed their annexation laws back, they've changed them multiple times, but to your point, because of municipalities were annexing properties without, the property owner's consent. And so it's not that forced annexation or involuntary annexation is illegal, it's that it's very tough, as in you have to have it go through this process of having your state, local, officials put a bill onto the General Assembly's floor to be voted on for local annexation of whatever properties that we would include in this bill. And that's the thing, is it hasn't been done yet. And so, because it's just tough, it's tough to, either have the justification like we put together here or
the
whatever.
reasonings are very good, and I think you see a lot of municipalities take this on and support this. We would get that support. However, it's, and I would argue also the donut holes aren't organized well enough, other than an HOA's uproaring and stuff, but they don't vote for us and stuff, which again doesn't matter, but again, it's a fine line you have to thread. But our arguments obviously is, I would say, taking it to the state is like, look, we're wanting to take over roads. I go, how do you expect us to take over a community of roads when we have pockets of homes that don't belong in Marvin or areas that don't belong in Marvin where we can incorporate? So there's a lot of arguments we could have. I just, have you talked to Chaplin about it?
We have in passing. Once we kind of get your direction, we're really going to dive into this. This is legal. This is straight from the North Carolina Constitution. The General Assembly can set municipal boundaries. They have that power. There have been legislative annexations that are usually small in nature. Cornelius, I had one a couple years ago, for example. Even if this doesn't fly, this at least gets people talking. And from what I recall from the retreat discussion you had with Todd Johnson and David Willis, I think even they agreed that some sort of change needs to be made to these laws at some point, because cities can't grow.
Yeah, that I think the biggest thing, the reason why they changed it was just because of land grabs by municipalities. They wanted to try to control the land grabs, but especially cities like Raleigh and Charlotte, these our biggest cities in the state, they cannot grow at all with this stranglehold that they have on the annexation. So in order for our state to grow and prosper, we're going to have to do something at some point. All these people moving in this area, if they're all unincorporated, it's going to be a problem keeping the infrastructure together.
Yeah, I think you said it well. It comes down to, what's in this memo with services, infrastructure, and all of that. It's these services that Marvin currently provides or will be providing with trash. The infrastructure, even though some of it's ours with roads and other stuff, but at the same time, it's county water and sewer, and it's, a chance for them to extend that. So it's kind of a win-win on both sides, and also to get get the residents better services. So, you know, I think it's a good argument, and it's just, you know, see where it can go. But I think it gives people
Just
pause.
beware, it wasn't long ago, the state senators were like trying to figure out a way to dissolve us because they looked at us as paper towns. We don't provide any services. Well, now we're starting to provide services, but they didn't like that because that's more funding away from them because we're taking, and people don't understand that we're not just taking the taxes of the home, we get a little bit of the vehicle, we get a little bit of sales tax, and all those things that go away from, pull away. It's still the same amount when you look at a percentage wise, but some of it now goes to the municipality versus that. So there was argument not long ago with some state senators that they didn't, like, why do you exist? You're just a paper town that has ordinances and stuff, and they would rather see us dissolve than that. So I'd be curious to see how that gets through the state.
Well, we're not gonna find out unless we do it.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
What
I mean-
he's got to do is a good point.
I mean, I don't think that, you know, I'm not worried about, I mean, people have changed over the past, 10 years. And I feel like it was 10-ish years ago that they, said no more. And I think this is so, I mean, seriously, like I read this and I was like, oh my God. I was like, we are really doing all this for all these people that are not paying anything into getting all this improvement done, but yet they're benefiting from it.
And we did open the
Park.
park over
Yeah.
to them too, so
You-
now they have a park.
So I mean, I think that nobody is going to be able to come back with these this packet of information and these reasons to why it doesn't make sense. So I think let's look at where we think we want to add.
Can I add one quick thing?
Yep.
One other really critical argument is, if you guys were to pursue this and this goes through, these residents that are brought in, we're going to be able to provide more services, additional law enforcement, and probably even a tax decrease on everyone.
So we looked at the numbers. Have you looked at like what you have highlighted? If you added what the ad valorem to
We
that,
did
what is
that
that?
a while
Yeah, you did a while
I
back.
remember doing that. What was it?
It
Couple 100,000.
Yeah, for example, Providence down south, I believe, is 100 and I want to say 150, 160,000. And that's enough for a law enforcement officer, just them. That's just one example. So we could provide more services and decrease everyone's taxes and still have more, and still be bringing
Still
in
have
more revenue. Yeah.
And that's just ad valorem tax. That doesn't
Yeah.
include all of the other taxes, like Joe was saying, that come back
Yep.
for
And
car
then looking
registrations
at-
and all the other stuff.
All those areas you have highlighted, if they were potentially came in, what does that add to our road mileage?
Well, let's see. Gate, not gate.
Okay.
So there's one neighborhood on this list that I'm looking
And they
at.
can
That's the
choose to
chimneys.
take their gates down, we take their roads, or
They can choose that.
their grandfather gates.
Chimneys would be quite extensive with streets. It's a pretty good sized
Yeah,
development.
but chimneys.
Their roads
oh, I
have to be
missed chimneys.
standards.
The chimneys would
I missed
be,
chimneys on
that
that
would be
list.
one that would be a big, that'd be a big.
We don't know the condition of their roads though.
Well,
We don't know the condition of their roads, I believe.
We don't know or don't like.
Don't know the condition of their
Oh,
roads.
yeah.
But it's a fairly good sized community is what I'm getting at. There's a lot of
Yeah.
asphalt over there. There's two entrances onto Waxaw Marvin Road. The school is there. And that street that accesses the school is a
Well
super
traveled
wide
and well
street,
traveled. Yeah.
well traveled. So that's going to be a costly neighborhood to take on.
But there's a lot of houses in there.
There are.
And
There are.
that
I
will help.
just throwing that out there
I know.
that it's an ungated community, and if we take that out, that's a big chunk.
Yeah.
That's a
Well, listen, they've always talked about wanting to become Marvin. I've talked to numerous residents over there.
Considering it's the chimneys at
Oh.
Marvin.
of Marvin. Yeah.
And you have a lot of you have a lot of people in these neighborhoods that they think they're in Marvin.
I know.
We had a couple from the reserve come in last week and they did not know they did not live in Marvin.
There's nothing better than to get a complaint from a non-resident saying, where are those officers?
Yeah. Call the sheriff's
They're
department.
in Marvin.
Okay, so do we like this? I mean, what was the first list that we sent? Or the first list of annexation
We
informations?
If y'all go to the drive in the planner,
pull up the original annexation
there's one
numbers.
called annexation, and then it has other pages in there.
It has a lot of overlap. There are some areas that's on this map that we didn't initially send mailers to.
Okay.
Um,
But we feel like this is the best, like this is the best start right now? Or if we do this, then that's it?
I would say this is the max. I would not go beyond this. This covers the donut holes. This
What is this right here?
that excuse me. That hole is Sandy Ridge.
Austin.
Where at?
It's Sandy
Oh,
Ridge.
it's Sandy Ridge,
Yeah.
okay.
And that the county has to make the decision whether or not they want to join Marvin. You also have a
It's not
small,
like we're gonna get
What
revenue
about
for
west
that,
of
that's fine.
Crane Road? Why is that included?
the reason west of Crane Road is orange. That's for the purpose of contiguity. So we're Marvin on both sides of the road. To the right of that open space, that's Marvin Ridge. So again, that's the county's decision.
Yeah,
whether-
this is Marvin
looking at
Ridge,
this
and this is,
one,
and this is Woodhall. I would actually add Woodhall to that, because we've already asked them to join.
So why would the county annex into Marvin?
It.
Are you talking about the school?
Yeah. County
mean-
property, why would they or wouldn't?
Well, they don't know what's taxes.
They probably
Right.
wouldn't, so. I wouldn't even approach them about the schools. It
We
doesn't matter.
we have previously approached them about the schools. They just said, "No, we'll talk about it. We'll consider it." But from what I understand from Rohit's discussions with them, and Hunter, I don't know if you've had a chance to talk to them about it.
What's all?
But
Isn't this all
they're-
ours?
Woodhall.
their biggest
So it's Woodhall
holdup-
right here,
Their biggest holdup
and this
is
is the reserve.
you also have Rose Cliff on there. We did send them mailers
And
too.
Rosecliff is on this side.
Yeah, but they're not
You've got
contiguous.
the reserve and PDS. Why is PDS not on this list?
PDS is
I
on
mean,
this list.
just PD.
This is when we came
That's a
when
big chunk off that way.
when we first came up with this, we wanted to make
I'm
make
just
Marvin.
asking, I'm not questioning. I'm just
Well,
asking.
this is why we wanted to have a proposal that made Marvin more contiguous, that made sense, but we don't want someone to look at this and be like, oh God, this is a land grab.
Right.
But I mean, with already having 3 roads in Marvin for Providence Downs, wouldn't we want that?
Well, yeah, that's a good point, because we do already have.
They're not our roads though. They're in Marvin, but we don't maintain them. They're
Because
private.
they're private, because it's gated now. I mean, I can see both sides of the point there. I mean, there are 3 streets in there that are in Marvin, but yet we don't, and are not looking to take care of those roads because they just gated everything.
I mean, that's a huge neighborhood. I mean, it's your guys' decision. This is just what we initially recommended as what we saw as kind of a max here for this initial ask, because we want it to look contiguous.
What about, like, if they do grant this, that we take on Providence Downs at a later date and show that, well, that's part of Marvin, do this piece at a time so we don't look like it's a land grab,
Yeah.
because that's
That's-
not what
that's-
we're trying to do.
Right, but that's kind of what I was
We're
asking.
trying to
Like,
get our,
if we do this first and it's successful, then can we go back and do it again? Maybe not right away, but
yeah.
I don't know. I would say they should wait a while before they even consider something
I mean,
like that.
I think you would have to let this play out, but at the same time, this doesn't change the fact. I mean, if this works out for the village itself, provides more services, gets certain things going, some of those neighborhoods can voluntarily.
annex in,
Gets the ball rolling.
Yeah.
The deal gets sweeter to annex in.
yeah.
What
More
about the
services.
neighbors like, that have just a few locations? And I think Christina, you and I talked about this, just talking about, well, how do you handle this? If we're going to get, we own the roads.
Mm-hmm.
We have a garbage service.
Yes.
However, those few homes that are in the neighborhoods that aren't Marvin, technically they have the right to not use the garbage service and have now another company coming in using our roads, and how that affects it. Are we able to do anything about that, saying, look, these are,
Kind of like what we did with Weddington Chase and the roads. When we redid the roads, we said you guys have to come in.
Christina, didn't you say that there was some kind of a franchise agreement that you were looking at with that trash service that would prohibit somebody from using another service under that agreement? If you could get it together?
But that was just in Marvin.
Ideally, you get to a point where, okay, maybe we can't get them to come into Marvin, but they're gonna be forced to use, and they're gonna have to have their own agreement with the trash hauling service. They won't get the price that we provide. I mean, that's the only thing I could see, but because there are roads and you have multiple trucks driving, because technically you could have 3 or 4 different trucks, because one may choose one company that we don't use, another home may choose another, so now you're.
But if we own the roads, we have all the houses. Right, Christina?
So, no, well, if we have all the roads, there could be some segmented parts, like,
Weddington Chase.
You have 6 houses
well,
in
no,
Weddington Chase
that
that
we
aren't
actually
Marvin.
do, yeah, you're right. But the point that Councilmember Wortman was trying to make is that we're gonna do at some point a franchise agreement, and we're gonna change our ordinance to where if you don't have a franchise agreement, you cannot service the folks of
Oh,
Marvin.
that's what you're
And so.
But they're not servicing
Hang
the
on.
folks from Marvin,
Hold on.
because they're not Marvin's.
You couldn't service on our streets.
Okay.
Yeah, so
So-
the only
so-
one that would do
okay.
it would be
I see.
our contractor that would be able to service on those streets.
Yeah, it's still something that Chaplain's looking into to figure out how we put it together, but in a nutshell, what the attempt is to try to prohibit all vendors from servicing on our roads except the one that we have selected.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Well, I like this. I like the fact that somebody's at least putting something together. I guarantee you municipalities will start taking this idea and will get support very quickly. But
Have you guys?
I mean, we can present this
Oh
at
my
WUMA.
God. That's
Right.
what I was getting
The
ready to
other
say. If I could spit it out.
That I'd like to ask, and I don't know if Hunter, if you know this, or Austin, either one of you, has anybody else, any other cities like Charlotte, Raleigh, the big players, has anybody else, made any movement toward this?
I will say this just from experience that, so we have an annexation agreement. So whenever, with Charlotte, so whenever they have an annexation, they notify us. They get large annexations voluntarily just because of the services the city provides.
Okay, so
That's what-
they're expanding voluntarily, they're not having to push in, they don't have donut hoses, they're having to fill.
Correct. It's easier if we owned our water and sewer, if we had police, because water and sewer is the biggest thing that's in a spur development. Because you can hey, if you want to annex in, we'll
give you
provide you
water-
the services.
water
I mean, it's
service,
a
yeah.
huge kind of thing, especially getting large tract subdivision development, to get those services out there. And that's just something where, it'd be in coordination with the county or something like that. And I think, I mentioned that to Austin, that's in the memo about trying to potentially work with the county to get a lower rate for Marvin residents. But it's kind of hard since they own it, that they're a county customer regardless. So,
Yeah.
it's certain things like that. And even if we can do something like that with trash, talking to the county about, I'm assuming the county does not have a franchise agreement, considering I think all these other neighborhoods have their own type of trash. They're free to choose whoever to an extent, but yeah. So that's the voluntary on those larger municipalities is kind of easier with the services provided. So it's not necessarily they've had to go the route of involuntary.
Well, that one note about that, Monroe does provide power separately from the counter. They're not Union Electric. They're actually,
And
they
North
buy their
City.
power from Duke and then sell it to city residents, because I used to live in Monroe. That's the only reason why I know this. So that being the largest city in the county, they're able to provide services outside of county services. So that is something that is done in the county.
Just reason, that's why
they're
the
big enough to do
last voluntary annexation, I asked why they volunteer is possibly to have access to water sewer.
Yeah.
Is one of the reasons why they did so.
Okay.
Look, I think this is a great start. I think we presented at WUMA, so I'll take
Well,
this
David
aside.
Willis will be at our next.
We'll provide an updated one
Yeah, so we'll discuss
Yeah.
that later, but
What needs to be done next?
on the map, the scope.
We need to figure out-
So are you okay with what's on here? Is there a place you want to add, take off, anything that doesn't make sense?
The only thing I think that's important is, given the scope of the attention of the public towards anything that we do, my feeling is, as well crafted as it is, it's always, when there's new information that comes out like this, it explains everything. maybe, the only thing I was gonna say is maybe you can add a paragraph that historically talks about why are we here at this point? In other words, the history of Marvin. In other words, if we're a young village, we're a young place, and a lot of people that even have moved in here are probably not even aware of donut holes, and they're confused. They don't know. I thought we were all in Marvin, you know, they don't know. And so maybe there's for it, from the optics standpoint, that it doesn't look like a land grab, but kind of why are we here? What is the reason for this? And it dovetails, which is perfect, I'm glad that conversation came in, it dovetails with the way people are starting to feel about trash. It's a great service, and we understand why we're doing it, but a lot of people are saying, what are you doing? Why are you invading? What are you trying to accomplish? So maybe all of that to say that where it's on the background, it's talked about perfectly where we're at now, but is there any way maybe to add just a history of Marvin, of how this happened, how that we have all these pockets that people enjoy being a Marvin resident without being a Marvin resident? You know, you get my drift. Anything like that?
We can do that.
Yeah,
That's not a
I
problem.
agree. That's a great point, Bob, because if you think about it, we were incorporated because to protect us from Charlotte. Is essentially what, and you could either be paying a 5-cent tax or be paying a 60-cent tax. I mean, what is it that you want and be part of Mecklenburg County? So that's why we were incorporated to begin with. But then it was the legislators, because it became a land grab by the municipalities. Oh, I want this, you can't hop over and stuff. And that's what, you know, I'll credit John Barisic. I think he was the one that went around and talked to all the individual homes and said, you want to become Marvin because if this continues, you could potentially be Waxhaw. Waxhaw's at 36 cents, we're at 5 cents. Where do you want to be? And they all agreed, and they said, oh, Waxhaw even complained back in the day. They said, oh, you can't do that. They said, no, this is all voluntary annexation, and that's what created the donut holes, if you will. So protecting, now that the inners are protected, they can't be touched by anybody else, but they're, again, to the point of what we're making is they're enjoying taxation. They're enjoying the representation without taxation, if you will. So
One thing I was going to say is that oh God, I think I'm losing it.
All right,
Hadn't
Bob, I
lost
think
it.
that's a good point, so let's add that. I'm good with these areas if this is what you guys feel like we should do.
I don't see why we're not taking east of Crane, or west of Crane.
Woodhull.
Sorry. I don't see why we're not including that.
You mean Woodhull and the other big area on here that we didn't take west? We're not asking for west of Crane is the reserve, and that's because they're a very large neighborhood, and we did not send them mailers. They were not in our phase 1 annexation.
I would add Woodhull and I would add Rosecliff only because we sent them invitations.
Okay.
And they're probably more
maybe-
in line with our current
Maybe not
ordinance,
Maybe
R40.
not Rosecliff. but Woodhull.
Rosecliff is 16 homes ungated. They do not have an HOA. We got I would say when we did the drive, the majority of the questions we got a ton from Rosecliff from those 16 homes.
I would say add them because that's for their standpoint, since they don't have an HOA, they are a small community. They would benefit greatly by being within the
They
village.
would.
Their street would be taken care of. They would have garbage service, and they would have somebody to help because without an HOA, they don't have anybody helping them keep their properties. You know, keep their property values up and such without
I mean,
anything.
I'm fine with that. I'm fine adding Woodhull, but if we do Woodhull, we're gonna have to do basically every individual house on that street up to Woodhull from the south.
That's actually not many houses.
From the south, there's not. It's all north, isn't it?
It's almost all north. There's one property there that's just a large property with one house on it.
Okay, well, let's add that in there and add Woodhull and
The
do
one over
Rosecliff.
there in
Yeah.
top.
I look at it just makes sense. Just
Yeah,
looking
no,
at the
no.
map, you know.
The only neighborhoods that were in our phase 1 annexation that are annexation plan that is not included on here is Providence Downs and Walden Pond.
Okay. They're not included?
They're not. No.
Why?
I think again I don't know if you would agree with this, but I think at that point we're asking for too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Walden Pond, quite frankly, is just out there with the park. It's not really connected to anything else, and that would be a big ask.
It attaches to the back. It attaches by land to the back of.
Providence Downs.
No, it attaches actually. Well, it does, but it attaches to Marvin proper around what is that neighborhood? Willow Creek, Beechwood. Yeah, Willow Creek and Bell Grove. It attaches to the back of that.
Okay.
Their HOA lands do, but
Oh, I didn't realize it was that big.
yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know. Christina's has received some emails from a few residents from Walden Pond who are interested in our trash service. So that they could be a good candidate for someone to annex
Maybe
in
voluntary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that would be great if we could voluntarily get that neighborhood and connect all that. That would really solidify that hole. And then you'd have that big hole on Crane Road in the middle, and that
Yeah.
could be filled in pretty
Yeah.
readily later on. But
And we-
I think the wood hole and the rose cliff added to this.
Add that.
I don't think we want to try to do any more than
Can
that.
you bring it back on the August?
We can.
Regular work session or regular meeting?
We can. The only other thing I was going to say is, well, I personally think the reserve would be a good candidate for voluntary in the future, just because they're not gated. They have a lot of roads. They haven't heard from us much yet. And once we begin offering these new services, if we have these other areas come into Marvin, they're going to be like, hey, why don't you guys take care of our roads?
Right.
Why don't we get the good deal on trash service?
Right.
Why-
Getting the other annexations done, that would be a big spiff for them. A good reason for them to come in, so. Yeah.
Okay. Where Kim go?
I think she had a call.
She had a phone call. Okay. Anything else you need from us?
Do you have anything you want to add?
No. We can just get together and.
Yeah, we'll have a follow-up meeting.
Yeah.
So you'll bring this up on the next
Yeah,
The work session or?
do you guys want this
Regular
work?
meeting.
She said regular meetings.
Regular meeting.
regular meeting.
Yeah.
Bring it up for discussion. Jamie will be here and
Yeah.
Lorraine will be in place
So
in Chaplin
I'll
and
put this regular meeting.
more discussion, if you will. All right.
All right. Okay, I'm
Nice job
I'm good
on
on that.
Thank you. Bob, okay to move forward?
Thumbs up.
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we have, and we may need to take a quick break because discuss and consider adoption of revised village council meeting schedule.
Mm-hmm. This just adds the date of the fall town hall meeting. That way, it's formally scheduled. That way, I don't have to do a special meeting notice later.
Okay, so it's
So we're just
October
adding that one.
14th.
You're
We're
adding
gonna
it.
meet
Adding
this
one
part.
day.
And what's that for?
That's the one fall town hall.
We're just adding
Oh, so we're not,
all to the
we're
official
deciding not
schedule.
to do that and we can accommodate. Well, it's in October, it's not hot, that's good. Okay.
And that's the date that y'all picked at the last meeting.
Yeah, okay.
So we're just officially adding it to the schedule.
All right, so we want to put that on the, we moved on to the next topic.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's just basically the scheduling, so add that to the consent agenda.
Oh, wait, hold on, I had something there, I'm sorry, I'm so
The
sorry.
schedule?
Yeah. The November 9th meeting, that will be the one right after the election.
Okay.
We're supposed to, Christina, correct me if I'm wrong, but per state statute, we're supposed to swear in at the first organizational meeting after the election?
I thought it was December.
No, it's supposed to be the first one because it's usually like right around there. Is there any way that we could maybe move
You
that?
can't swear them in because it takes the Board of Elections too long to verify everything.
Hold on.
That's right.
I understand that. Can
That's
we
why
move?
she's wanting to move the meeting.
Yes.
And she let her get to that.
Oh.
She's trying to push it back so that we have time to do that.
To do that, and if we don't, then we'll just do it at the December meeting. But
What I think the Board of Elections takes a couple weeks to actually certify the results, and that's when they become official.
Right.
So they wouldn't be official
Right,
until
right.
they wouldn't become official until your December meeting. So
Okay.
that would, I think that would be where you would swear them in. Does that sound right, Christina?
We could do that, just do.
Usually it's in December, but it is the first organizational meeting, but you can pick whatever.
It's the first organizational meeting after it's been,
Verified.
yeah.
I'm looking it up right now.
So then.
Yeah, I
then-
think it was questioned even
That's why
last
I
time,
said
it was
December.
the December, we
It-
didn't even.
Well, we couldn't do them, not you, them, until January, because they weren't done by the December meeting.
So,
What?
do we need to just look
Jamie
at
and
that
Bob
ordinance?
Jamie and Bob.
to do them
That
because it
statute
wasn't
to make sure that
decided
it
by the
says
Board of
after
Elections, even
it's
by the
official by the
December
county.
I'm pretty sure that it does, but can you pass that down, please?
Yeah.
I mean,
don't know if you want-
I'm all good with.
That's why I wanted to,
Okay. But I get it, I just don't see. you
Can we
know,
just move
When
the
do you
meet-
wanna move it, 1 week?
yeah, to the next Tuesday.
Okay.
Can we do that?
You want to move
Just
I don't-
move
the
it?
9th to the 16th?
Yes.
I don't have a problem with it, I would be just.
You do have an issue. That's planning board.
I was gonna say, then there's,
I have the statute pulled up. Do y'all want me to read it?
Please.
Yes, ma'am.
The council may fix the date and time of its organizational meeting. The organizational meeting may be held anytime after the results of the municipal elections have been officially determined and published.
Certified.
But not later than date and time, the first regular meeting of the council in December after the results have been certified.
Okay, it's fine. If we got planning board, I mean, planning board.
Hey, John.
So it's
It's
official that we do it
fine.
in December then? Okay.
That's what's normally done when they're not.
All right, it's fine.
So
Okay.
do you guys want this on consent?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Wait, what did we change on it?
You're just adding the fall town hall meeting.
Oh, okay.
Eford Park,
Yeah.
good?
Yep.
Alright. Next up on the agenda is this,
Special.
wait a minute. Yeah, no, discussion of a fall town hall meeting agenda, is that correct?
Correct.
I thought I was hopping over one, which I was. So next up is discussion of fall town hall meeting agenda. What do you think, guys? We had, I think, what was really nice is that we had a list of accomplishments that we've accomplished. We could talk about what was discussed at our retreat, I'm thinking, then what, from the retreat, what we have accomplished.
That's what you did the last one. Do you want to do that again?
Well, I mean, just kind of recapping, okay, in our retreat, we discussed this, this, and this, here's where we're at with this, this, and this. And also, talking about, again, that's one of the biggest things is, you know, obviously time for questions, Q&A, but the retreat I see as being, you know, obviously not many people attended last time, and almost a chance to, and more of an informal thing, and maybe just a short time to be discussing, or maybe even have on a big board at Eford Park, our accomplishments, what we've done so far, and what's in the pipeline and stuff like that, and make it more of an informal meeting, because we sat up there, well, we had some technical issues, obviously, but nobody was really on Zoom.
You had about 15 on Zoom at that one.
Yeah, well, like some of them consisted of my family members, so it's like, it's just, but it bottom line, it's like,
Yeah.
I couldn't pull teeth. My neighbors, I said, look, this meeting's happening and everybody's busy, but hey, I see it as a more informal thing. We're not gonna be able to do Zoom.
Nope.
Right?
We do not have connectivity out there.
And this is just an idea. I mean, put a board out there, talk about what we've accomplished, talk about what's in the pipeline.
You mean like
that's
our
in there.
posters? Posters we
Yeah,
normally
big
do?
posters.
Okay.
Put them out there, kind of like we did when we were talking about what the Heritage District might look like and what Town Hall and all those things. But then you're calling a formal meeting because we're all going to be there to talk to in person. And we can freely talk in person individually and have that dialogue back and forth. And it's more informal, I think it's, you know, and then the other thing is, how do we get them there? So what do we say, and we talk about a food truck,
Possibly.
potentially, to just bring them in and say, hey, come enjoy a taco or some barbecue. You know,
We can change that.
I know, I'm just saying.
I just worry that we plan this event and nobody shows. And that's what happened last time.
Well,
Quite
we're
frankly, the first time.
Well, I
But we're
mean,
getting better at it, I think.
no, we had more people the first time. But it was
Yeah.
also, remember, if you remember correctly, people didn't show up in person because of the gas situation.
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, we're still gonna have it because again, I'm with Jamie on this one. Like, we are having more opportunities for people to come and talk and ask questions, and I'm tired of people being like, well, I didn't know about this. Well, why are you doing that? So, I mean, we need to do it, but I like your idea, Joe, of having it kind of like, you know, here's what we're doing, but then like, just have it be a conversation. Not so much like a presentation.
Where we're sitting up in
More
front
like
on like we were on a podium and we're just
Yeah.
talking and it's okay, you're up.
But
and
that
let's
was,
talk.
that was the setup of it, and
And that works especially for Zoom. We're not having Zoom. We're
Mhm.
basically
yeah,
at our park, and it's a time to get to approach me or him or whoever you want, or maybe a couple, because that's the beauty of it. You could have three of us right there,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple individuals from a neighborhood saying, "Hey, we need to do this, this, and this," and we're like, you know, and it's just informal. I think that's much more approachable.
yeah.
I think people don't get, you know, they may get a little.
Offshoot council kind of set up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Get
like,
the- you know, and that.
and all we have to do is
Right.
assure that anyone attending, we need to make sure that they're residents of Marvin, because that's what we're there for, what the current residents of Marvin.
Bring your utility bill to the door.
No, I mean, I'm not saying that, but it'd be nice to get an RSVP, because we have limited space at the park.
We can do that.
Park,
Did we
and
do that
so-
the first time?
We, whenever we sent these emails, I sent an email with a button that says RSVP here.
Yeah.
We need to know how many people are coming.
Limited parking, just put limited parking space, so RSVP.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, anything that, you know, and you guys okay with the food truck?
Sure.
Yeah.
I got an idea.
I love food.
I
And
like
He
ideas.
has an idea.
I like your thought of, instead of it being a formal presentation because of the past, you know, couple of experiences, I'm not saying use this title, but something of the effect of food truck with council. In other words, something of, it's an informal, come out, and there would be an agenda that we would tell the public that this is what would be discussed, or whatever else on your mind. So in other words, the topics that we would have for the town hall, show those topics, but I love the idea of a, you know, whatever, some sort of whiteboard and easel of showing all of our accomplishments, so that it's a gathering. And it also lets people know, and this is what I was asking about before the meeting, or the last meeting, is we can't get political, and it might be a platform of possibly inviting candidates. I'm just saying, I don't know if we can do that. But something of food truck with council, making a joke, make it kind of fun, have an RSVP. I'm not even saying, I'm thinking, when we have the town hall, I don't know what that food truck cost us. What if we were to offer, you know, you come here, we got a food truck, you know, come have food truck on us, something like that. Might be fun. And then that would be the last thing we would do. And then no more town halls for the bean. Then you got Marvin Day. So that's gonna be a whole new, you know, that'll be another gathering. Just some thoughts.
Just for the record, Bob has suggested coffee with council be changed to cocktails with council.
I didn't say that.
I like it.
So,
You'll get people to show up, I promise.
so functionally for this, do you guys want to essentially have, when people go into the barn, there's little stations, little areas where maybe there's a staff member to talk about what's going on, or you guys are walking
I like
around the
that.
room,
Yeah.
kind of like a science fair almost.
Yeah, meet your planner, meet your clerk.
Yeah.
You know, you could have a little boost for you.
Right.
You can pass out Marvin pens.
The
or
dunking
something.
booth?
The dunking booth, no.
Dunk the mayor.
If you.
I like that
Participation
idea.
there.
It's October, it's gonna be cold.
I like
Even
that
better.
But if-
I'm pretty sure that we can do that for next year now.
Like, walk in, you would have somewhat channeling, if you will, instead of this blanket coffee with council, you channel it where you actually would have, here's the agenda topics, and yeah, I love that, where you break it off into, here's the planner, here's the administrator, here's the manager, you know? Now, if the manager gets overwhelmed because there's a line there, you know, I'm saying, you know, what is this about garbage disposal? You know, we can kind of move over there and assist or help, or, I like the informality of it, but
Yeah.
just, you know.
Well, and
I
I'm
like
thinking that that's probably going to entice more people to come.
Yeah, than just
being
sitting there
informal
listening to us
right.
talk. Yeah.
They don't want to be talked at, they want to be talked with. So,
And that interaction with the Q&A right as it's happening versus us presenting, any questions, that kind of stuff.
Do you guys want a time slot essentially for everyone to get up on their soapbox and talk jointly, or?
Not necessarily.
I mean, we
But
could-
I
we
think
could
that
start
will
out with a
happen just
presentation.
that will happen by just if a few people come up and somebody's just listening in on a conversation and you've got sort of the floor for maybe 4 or 5 people. I think
I
that's,
think if we open with our topics that we have to discuss,
I think
as that's the opening of the meeting.
Yes.
And then we go into the more
Yes,
informal
I
part of
agree.
it and the discussions, but that at least gets everything out there
Sets
for people
the
to.
stage.
Right.
Here's
Put
here's
some
some things if
information
you've
out.
got questions. Yeah. I think we do a welcome,
Yeah.
kind of talk about what we've
Introduce
done,
everyone.
what's going on, and then say like break out into small discussion groups.
yeah.
Breakout groups.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that works.
And we have more time to talk about this.
Yeah, so does that give you guys a good
Yes.
direction, and then at the next work session we can kind of continue to.
yeah, so basically introduction of who's who. Saying you want a chance to speak to our planners, Hunter's gonna be over here in his planner area, our clerk.
We're gonna have them
So-
on the table out.
Format
Tilt
wise,
table ready for you.
format wise, just because do you guys currently like these sort of things that are on here?
Yeah.
We can either limit this down and have these little subtopic areas run throughout the night, or have these are the ones that are in the first hour.
I think we hit these topics, just give a brief update. Christina can just sit here and run through them. Hunter can run through what he needs to go through. Derek can talk about what he needs to go through. And then say, okay, we're going to now break out and we're going to, whoever you want to go talk to, however you want to go talk to them, like we're going to spread out throughout the barn. Come ask your questions.
So like first 20 minutes is
Yes.
kind of going through the stuff, and then everybody's on their own
Yeah.
little sections.
You gotta have a reason to have someone get there. And when I talk about that, it's like, why would I go to Mark? We go for a couple reasons.
Cocktails.
To have a cocktail, to have some free food.
Everybody wants cocktails with Bob.
Some free cocktails with Bob.
I want
Cocktail
cocktails
Bob.
with
No, barbecue with Bob. Come
Cocktail
on now.
Bob.
Free food or some sort of concert, like a acoustic.
Some kind of energy.
But that's
We're
what
not
brings
We're
people.
not having music. We're
I
not doing
get it.
that.
That's for Marvin the thing, but
I'll
bottom
go for
line
food.
is, and the fact that nobody's showing up is saying that we're not doing too many things wrong in my view, because we
agree.
don't get anyone. Just yesterday,
That's
2 nights ago, we had no one show up other than our potential candidate and person that wanted to learn more about the Village of Marvin. So, which
But just a comment of asking anybody's experience. When I first moved into Charlotte in the early 2000s, I would constantly hear about this barbecue that was all the candidates, I think in the area, I may be state, that was at this one particular road. It was like called Barbecue at, I can't remember, it's not Steel Creek, but it's the famous, well-known road, that it was like the barbecue at this particular place. You know what I'm referring to?
Nope.
That happens.
The church,
Not even slightly.
well, the church on Crane Road.
no, wait, the other side.
No, it was, it's not,
What's the name
It
of
was
it?
up
It's been there forever.
wherever it is. And
Okay.
I everybody got experience going to that with all the
No.
candidates and such?
No.
No.
Okay. That's just that.
Well,
The reason I was asking was that's the kind of setting where a lot of the candidates
exactly.
were kind of approached in this barbecue atmosphere. And I'm thinking, if anybody's had any experience going to it, what did it look like? Because this might be kind of the same thing, except we're elected officials, so. Just all, that's all.
Okay.
All right, so you got direction, Austin?
Yeah, I got enough to work with.
Okay. Moving on, we will move on to number 9, number 8, discussion of forming a youth council.
Ain't getting a chance to breathe today. So you guys previously talked about this, I believe, in January. This originally came from a resident who wanted to be on our board, but he was not 18 yet. At the time, we said, you know, we're still in the deep of COVID. We were dealing with staff issues, and really, we don't have any more staff resources than we did at that time.
So let's just put this on an indefinite hold until,
So we have more staff that can handle it.
yeah.
I mean, I think it's a great idea.
I do too.
And I think there's a lot of kids that would benefit from this and be interested in it, but yes, we need to do it right, and if we don't have capacity to form this right now, then
Yeah.
And you guys saw the manual in here, right, that I included?
Yeah. So
It's
let's
a
just-
lot.
It is.
I think more importantly too, let's work with the high school.
Well, let's put this on hold until we have more staff resources. So let's just put it on, leave it on my action item list. And just
Okay.
put it on hold so that we don't forget about it. And then we'll come back to it as we get additional staff.
Works for me.
Good? Bob, you go with that?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
By the way, the event that is an annual event that started in 1929 that I was talking about was Mallard Creek Barbecue, if anybody remembers that.
Nope.
Yeah.
Still on
I
that.
got nothing.
No.
yeah, I
You're dating yourself.
Yeah, you were around back then, Bob?
You look good, Bob. 1929. Nice.
I still want to be in that film that, and then Marvin, but
I thought they already did a cast call for you.
Oh my gosh. Can we take a 2-minute
Yeah.
recess?
Motion,
'Cause I really want to be here for this conversation.
all right, so need a motion on the table, take a 2-minute recess.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Select option to be used in the MHD form-based code. Hunter.
Okay, so, you know, as you recall, I kind of mentioned the memo over the last month. I think it might have been your last work session was when it kind of came to the concern about the residential design standards and how council can have some of that authority. And, you know, Tom kind of brought up in, I think, his presentation then that, you know, the council does not have that authority based off either form-based code as well as some of the legal authority for, that the state provides to you guys on what you can and can't select on design. So it kind of came up and we were looking at options. Tom and I kind of have been putting our heads together, looking at what's been in the form-based code, what legal authority we have in certain sections. So in your guys' packet, there was a memo and a attachment that Tom provided to planning board, and it's kind of a just summary of where we're at and what has to be updated in regards to MHD. Some of that might not even apply depending on what we gather from here today and kind of where you guys direct us to go. If you didn't get the handout, that's where I'm going to kind of go to next. I'll share them. Get into this.
All right, I got that.
When you get a chance, will you try to zoom that in? Okay, so, you know,
It's very thick. You're probably not going to be able to, honestly.
yeah. Okay. Well, we'll just leave it like that then. So once again, kind of, we were looking at all the options to control, how do we have that control or authority to regulate residential design standards within the MHC district? One of the first options we that we can pursue is honestly just taking out single-family residential out of the MHD. I mean, because then it's, yeah, I know that's not what the intent is, but if you look at the map, this is what was proposed in the form-based code. You have the residential only, which it could be a subdivision or development of some sort, as well as the MHD mixed use, which that's the only other place that in this form-based code allows for single-family residential. And that's not the best option, but that is one option, is to take that out, where then you don't have to necessarily worry about what type of houses are going to be in this district. The other option is, and I know that there were, after reviewing some of the community surveys and some of the input, was to, in the mixed use section, to actually have the definition of mixed use, which is kind of storefront residential above it. That's not necessarily the single family residential of houses or development, but that does provide where you're going to have that control over that commercial development and the facade and look and design, and still be in providing the residential in this district above it. And then the third option is kind of what we'll get into, is looking at doing conditional zoning district. That was something that I think Tom mentioned in the previous meeting. I know that was discussion at council at the time, prior to the form-based code being developed, wanted to try getting away from the conditional zoning district. And I think that with Tom's help and looking at all of this, I think we have developed a good kind of recommendation, but we'll kind of go through these options that we have, and I'll kind of discuss each one. So the form-based code is what was been, you got a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So option 1, no residential. I don't think anybody wants to do that. Option 2 is residential but above a commercial situation.
Yeah, I mean, and it's kind of a blend. You could take this out and allow this to be developed for a subdivision.
We would just remove that from the MHD.
Yeah.
Okay. But if we leave it in there, which I think is what we want to do, because again, I think we would like that MHD tax revenue on that. So I don't think we want residential above commercial, correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's up north. I've been
Yeah.
to one of those where.
I mean, it's cool, but I don't think that's what we're looking for here. So then third option is this.
So yeah,
Okay.
it's taking a different approach into how we develop the MHD.
So I think option 1 and option 2 are probably off the table. So option 3 is this.
Just out of curiosity, has any of this been discussed with the Heritage Committee yet? Just to kind of toss around ideas?
Kind of. It necessarily hasn't been discussed, but some of this is where we're getting direction, because if this is what council wants with that residential and the design standards with that residential, we need some of that direction, and the goal is then to take it back to them and go from there.
Okay.
I'm not necessarily opposed to option 2 for the mixed use portions only. Because
I would
it
agree. Yeah.
becomes essentially, I mean, like, it makes it very much mixed use. It blends it, and then we can control the
Aesthetic.
building
Yeah.
aesthetics by doing that, which makes it very easy,
But
just done.
only a 2-story.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you
Yes.
can, because what you would do is in the design standards, you could regulate height and all that other stuff.
Okay.
And once again, since it's a main commercial development, you're going to be able to regulate the facade. It would be kind of any type of other development process when it comes to commercial development
Okay.
in the first
I'm
place.
fine.
And so
I'm fine to
basically,
look at those options.
the way
I just think,
Single family could be in
Okay,
that,
that's fine.
in that subdivision on the end, but the mixed use would be really mixed use.
Mixed use.
Right, and the only reason I say that is because I think there's another need for the people who are become the empty nesters, want to stay in Marvin, but those are the people that would, it could be for a young couple just trying to get started in it, but I think they can do it in a way that looks good, so I don't necessarily want to take that off the table
Okay,
right
that's
away.
fine.
John, did you have something?
Yeah,
I wanted to bring John
just-
into the discussion.
Yeah,
That's okay
and
with
Yes,
council.
absolutely.
it's not my meeting, but, once again, back conversation in the planning board. And we spent a lot of time looking at the resident survey as it related to MHD. So, and it was extremely negative on residential over commercial.
That's what I thought.
Well-
I'm with you. I think to me, sounds good. But I mean, that was the reason we didn't even go down that path. But
You almost have to take a, like a field trip and go check out some and how they did it, and it's like, wow, that could look good. But then you got to realize, okay, where's the parking? How do you,
Was there-
all those things that kind of go along with that.
Yeah.
Was there any background information as to why people didn't like it? Was there some specific
I can't
reason?
quote, but it was a very specific question on the resident
That's
survey.
what I
I'll
thought.
mention two things on that. Is one, it's not, if you look at the survey results, and I might have them with me, but if you look at them, yes, it was mainly, it's not that it was a very, very strong, it was like, I think out of the 200 thing, it was like 20% were strongly for it, and it was like 20% was like kind of for it, and then like 5% didn't care, or it might have been a little bit slower, but it was like a 60-40 maybe type thing, and it was, well, as the way it broke it down, yeah, and the way it broke it down was like, you know, no comment, and then it was like strongly disagree and strongly disagree. And so the strongly disagree, I think, was only like 15 to 20%. I mean, it was, the favor was still within disagreeing with the concept overall. But
Good topic for the Eford Park thing. It's like, you know, the back and forth about.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to figure out what the real negativity of it is. If it can work fine, and then you know, and here's the thing that we've kind of discussed this, and Jamie was I don't mean to put words in his mouth, but he seemed to agree with it. Is that those of us who want to downsize as we get older and still live in Marvin, I feel like that there should be places that are smaller, less maintenance. That
Less or none, no.
right,
maintenance.
where I can still stay in Marvin and not have my big house and my big yard and my big property maintained as I'm older, and have something like that in the Heritage District that could be a little more compact. That people have those options, because we just don't have that option available in Marvin today, and I think that's this is a good spot for it to be.
and just to add in, you know, when I came in and was looking at this, like I said, my definition of how I interpret mixed use is storefront or, you know, commercial, same square footage above. However, you know, yeah, looking at the survey results, you know, I understand, but I think it's a great concept, especially with, I think, what this district's trying to get to was you want to have that walkability, the quality of life. And I think you made a great point about people don't want to leave Marvin, and as you get older, you know, the closer you are to amenities and that shopping, food, whatever, you know, we
Coffee.
get here. You know, it's a great concept and everything. I think potentially, you know, you brought up the concern about potential parking and stuff. It's not recreating the wheel at this point. It's kind of like, hey, maybe let's go look at what we like and what has worked for other places, other municipalities, and include that maybe in this plan. I think that's why it's kind of an option on here, is we take the single family part of it out of maybe the mixed use section, because like I said, we can still, we can kind of take these options and do blends, but I'm trying to get that feedback. But you take the single family, so individual homes or any type of, you know, subdivision out of the mixed use section, and then you would allow for actual mixed use residential above, and then you would allow either just single family and the residential only, or you would take that away from the MSD overall, where then you don't have to worry about the design standard standpoint.
Yeah, I don't think I'm in favor of taking the residential portion of it out. I think Kim's point, the revenue for one, to help support the district. And the other thing is, I don't see that getting out of control. If it's going to be a planned development, I think it's going to be done just by default, it's going to be done in a nice way, and I think it's going to turn out really well.
And do we
So I
see
think
it in
it's-
one or in multiple?
No, the one residential.
Yeah,
only.
and I
Just
will.
the residential single, like.
Yeah, I don't see that getting
And
out
I
of
don't
control
plan on
at
taking
all.
that out, because the reason being is the potential developers and stuff have already, you know, kind of been discussing, and they're willing to kind of they want to produce a good product and also kind of incorporate into the MHD and what is already in here. So I don't think that's necessarily the concern. And that's why when this kind of discussion came up, I was like, okay, then what is there? And then obviously it's the single family. I think it's really the single family in the mixed use. And so I think it's as simple as potentially letting that development happen as potential, you know, what's based off form-based code, and you know, removing it from the MHD. But I also removing the single family from the mixed use, or the mixed use section. But I think the third option is going to probably take all of these in and still maybe work, but there's only maybe kind of one or two downsides. Was there anything else anybody wants to ask or discuss on option 1 or 2?
No, let's go
Now let's
to
go 3 and see what you got for that.
Okay. So this was kind of a table that was provided to the planning board back in August, I think, of last year about, you know, the different ways to approach creating the MHD. It ended up getting to the form-based code, which is still a good idea, but I took this and made some changes based off of, hey, what can we do and can't do? And so there's 4 different options, kind of, and that's in the left-hand side of district options. And then the main tab I want to focus on is the ability for the village to regulate development. The other ones are in there. If you guys, you know, I don't know if you've seen this before, but if not,
I haven't.
I don't have it either.
you don't have a copy?
No.
Yeah, you do.
It goes right in from, no.
No, Hunter gave it to us this morning, so it's
Oh.
probably sitting in front of you somewhere.
It's probably underneath all your paperwork.
Yeah.
No.
Wait,
You got
you got it now?
Yeah.
So,
No.
I'm going to kind of go brief because I'll get to where the third, I think, the third best option. These I would basically take, this is option 3, but basically you got A, B, C, and D of option 3. One being creating several conventional districts, kind of what we have now. So you could have like an MHD residential, MHD commercial, MHD central business. I don't know, just that's kind of just an example. You could have 4 different districts because that's what, and I'm saying 4 because that's how many we have currently in the form-based code. You would develop kind of in the ordinance, kind of how it is in our standard ordinances. You'd have development standards, you know, setbacks, permitted uses by right. However, you wouldn't have any regulation on those type of developments with creating those uses by outside of approving the actual language to go into our zoning ordinance. So once it's approved and those are the uses by right, they're by right. There's nothing really that council would have control over.
So no aesthetics.
Correct.
Okay. I don't like that option.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
that's a state, that's a state.
We had
right?
control over aesthetics at Publix.
Well, that's for you don't have any control over aesthetics in general. That option, correct?
With this option.
Yeah, I'll get into the residential.
Because of the district,
You can, yeah.
right?
Because pretty much the development, outside of maybe what the design review, the language with the design review board and stuff like that, you would maybe have some of that control from a commercial standpoint. But there's another option that's, I think, another option to regulate the aesthetics in general, but that's still, I'll get to that here in a second. The other one is to do one conventional zoning district, so having like just an MHD district, so take all of this and just make that like a purple. So it's just one district as a whole, and having then uses by right and special uses. And special uses are what used to be considered conditional use permits, so CUPs are now SUPs, just to don't get confused. So if it's a special use permit, it would have to go through that process and be approved. However, you know, one thing it's kind of in red is like council does not have the legal authority to fully regulate residential design through this. So even if we made like single family residential a special use, you're kind of walking a fine path of saying, hey, we're not going to approve your SUP because it's not the design we like. You know, it's not saying you can't, it's just that it's one of these that I wouldn't recommend and it tested, as well as because typically with special use permits, it's pretty much if it meets a certain standards and definition and they're compliant, you can set certain things, certain other kind of aesthetic design buffer standards to that permit to issue it, but it's not something you can kind of deny because they don't, you don't like their design of their house.
Right.
To keep it simple. I'm going to go to the fourth option first, and then I'll skip back up to the third. The fourth option at the bottom is an overlay district, which it would basically be, you either can do two ways here, is either still create an MHD specific one district and then have an overlay over that, or you would keep the existing residential and put an overlay over it. The overlay would give you the authority to regulate design from a commercial standpoint. You then could do certain uses, but the way you would have to write it would be like in our current residential zone district, it would say like, I'm trying to think, maybe a mixed use housing, just for an example, would be a use by right, but only in the MHD overlay. You know, something like that. So then it only kind of applies to the boundary here. But overlays give you to set additional design and design, characteristic, streetscape, all that other stuff, type design features with an overlay.
Okay.
Final option, and sorry, is we, after kind of discussion with Tom and some of my colleagues, this is what I think is the best option. We do a conditional zoning district as a whole. We create the district, and then since the MHD has already been working with the property owners, they kind of would apply for each rezoning itself, and we can put in the standards in there that we would have to have them with the rezoning, because this gives you guys all legislative authority with any type of rezoning. You can approve it, and then you have your consistency statement or inconsistency statement, but you still approve it, or you can just deny it. And you can deny it because you don't like what their development is proposing. So this kind of gives you that whole authority to have it as a conditional zoning. So the intent here would be to actually take everything in the form-based code for the most part and make some tweaks, but make this actually the small area strategic plan. Because the design standards and everything that are in here is everything that the committee, the planning board, and council seems to like. So you kind of put all of that in there, and then you incorporate it into our land use plan as well. It gives you then that authority to state, hey, if a subdivision for single family residential it comes in and they're proposing, one, they would need a site specific plan and proposed development agreements to have their application considered. That being said, that gets it in front of you guys before it really even goes anywhere else. If you don't like the houses, the lot design, whatever, you can deny it. And so that kind of gives you that authority. And so basically you would be kind of creating multiple conditional zones within just the district boundary of what the MHD is.
Can we control the materials used on we can do, that would be considered like, okay, we don't want
Stucco.
Yeah.
cheap siding, whatever it is and stuff. Or we
You
want a
would-
brick look, or we
this-
want a, we can control that.
This gives you the full authority to control whatever. So if a developer comes in, and let's just take, this residential only parcel, has a site specific plan, elevations of what the houses they're proposing, other amenities, and it gets in front of you, that's their rezoning. They also come with proposed development agreement, that can be like a minute. I mean, it's kind of providing that flexibility for you guys, for staff, to work with the developer. But if they come in and, their houses are stucco and they're soul bent, that's the only type of houses they do, then once again, you just deny the rezoning application.
So, okay, because we had thrown up all the rezoning signs a month ago, whatever it was, and because we were going to go ahead and rezone the whole district.
Mm-hmm.
So with option C, we would not rezone the whole district. We would wait for a developer to come in to us to then rezone it.
Technically, yes, we would want, I think Tom mentioned this last meeting, but we would want the property owner or developer to be the applicant for the rezoning.
Not the village like
Not
it
the
was
village,
before.
correct. The only other way to do it, but I think it would be kind of encompassing a lot at once, because then you have to look at each design of kind of each property, and I think that's why this way works better, is to have everybody petition and sign that they agree to be, conditionally zoned. And then you could do that, but what this is doing is establish what would happen is basically then we would come back with language, with actual language that would go in our zoning ordinance, and it would state like you can only rezone. It would kind of be a floating district, but the parameters would be what was the original MHD identified boundary, meaning that somebody outside of it can't ask to be rezoned to the MHD conditional district. It would only apply within the original boundary.
So
Then,
is there I guess one of my concerns is that, let's say somebody's looking at, developing the yellow, and then somebody wants to develop one of the orange pieces. So then and then nobody wants to do anything else with the whole district. So then we've got
sitting and waiting.
the orange section right down here that they've developed into a coffee shop and farm to table restaurant. And then we've got residential down here, but nobody else is doing anything else in the district.
That could happen.
And that could happen even if we would take a different approach in forestries on this, because we can't, unless we owned all the property.
We can't develop it anyway, right?
Yeah. So you're taking that chance, and I think, from my understanding, and I've only talked to, I think, maybe 2 or 3 property owners, and I went back, there's still, however we proceed with it, if it's a residential portion, if it's a few other properties, I know the property owners are kind of ready to move forward on developing their property. But I don't think it's gonna happen overnight. But if that was the way, let's just say there's 3 or 4 properties, if it's residential and 3 of these, spread out, and they would all, apply for the rezoning at once, they would all have their own set of specifications. It'd be a lot to come in, but that's why we would go ahead and kind of develop the standards within the zoning ordinance,
Right.
where with the conditional zoning, you can set additional standards if it's on the aesthetics for the residential, if it's certain things. But for the most part, it's already laid out in our zoning ordinance, so it's not like we're creating a whole new.
And then the developers can come in and look at that and decide what would work for them
Yeah.
and what wouldn't work.
Yeah, so the intent of, the reason of kind of drafting the language, as well as then making this a strategic or small area plan, as well as in adopting it, as well as then putting it in our land use plan, is that, hey, we have this plan in place. Basically, these are all recommendations. This is what the village's vision was for this MHD, and so that's what they can go and reference and look at to see. Okay, we know this is what the village wants for this area. Anybody can apply for the rezoning, but once again, if they don't meet what
council changes, quite frankly.
Correct,
too,
and that's kind of
because-
it provides flexibility between staff. I think it provides flexibility for all parties, if it's developers, if it's staff, and if it's elected officials. I mean,
So I use the word control, and I want to just be clear for the record for those who are thinking that through control. So what we're giving them is a new zoning which increases the value of their property. Would you agree with that?
correct. I mean, it's the property owner. I think.
So what my point about control is, what do we get back in return for overnight by changing the zoning from residential to commercial, whatever we call it? That would increase the value. So what do we want in return from that is what we want to decide. And how can we control? Because I think we've all talked about how we all drive in these little towns and like, oh, that's a cool little town. I was in Ketchikan and I'm taking pictures of that town because it's just cool and it kind of spoke to me and stuff. And we all have driven through those towns, but the question is, how do we get there where that is controlled? Because council's going to change over the years that this takes to happen, and it's like staying with that vision of, okay, whether it's slowing down traffic and maybe making it miserable for people to use this as a cut through, and it's, oh, that's downtown Marvin, you're probably going to get stopped by the officer because it's a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit because we own the roads, and it's walkable, safe, those kind of things. We have a vision of how it looks, but I will just caution council that council can change, and there may be a person that says, hey, I want the higher density, and I'm gonna allow it this time. You got the majority of them saying that could potentially happen.
Well, and that's why you take all the work that the committee, like I said, everybody has put into this form-based code over the last year and a half, 2 years, and you make this your adopted plan. And that's kind of because to your point, that is the vision of of that committee, that planning board, and that council. And it's adopted in our plans, and then we create, like I said, the zoning ordinances that's going to reference these plans. That's like, hey, check out the design, or that it would give us that control. And so then, yeah, if when council changes, it does kind of provide them flexibility, maybe interpreting or seeing it different, because it's all legislative, all because it doesn't maybe necessarily meet what's in here. it just states that times change and stuff like that. And that's kind of what the other thing is that I personally didn't like about this coming in, is that this is one vision. I
Right.
think it's certain
this
things
is this,
have-
that's all it's gonna be, this is this, that's all it's gonna be, whereas you're saying this proposal is like, you know what? It's an idea, but it's not what we're looking for, so we can deny it, and then, wait till we hear from them and say, look, what, have you considered this and stuff? Because that's how you get, in my view, just opinion of one, is how you get 12 different landowners who have 12 different ideas to come. It's like, you're basically moving them down the avenue of, here's what we want. You could throw anything at us, but in some cases, we won't be able to control what they do, but in this case, it gives us more flexibility.
Correct. So yeah, the two things are there is that it does provide flexibility for both council and the property owners / developers, because these would be a set of recommendation, design standards and stuff in a plan. And, we can put in the ordinance that it has to comply, or like that's a recommendation, but at the same time, they're gonna have to have that site plan and development agreement and everything that's gonna be part of their rezoning petition. With that being said, if something is proposed, and let's just say later down the road, kind of getting back to, there's been 4 developments, we like them, it's working out great. Well, this property we had is for, mixed use, but it's seeming like, somebody comes in and wants to do another subdivision development or something. It kind of provides in the flexibility of what.
Changing as we go.
Yes.
Okay.
But we don't want to overdevelop. So,
Correct.
like, the whole reason why Rohit designed it the way he did with that residential on the one side is to shift the one house per acre
Yep.
to provide where we're not doing more density than what we want. So it was just, all it was basically a shift to keep that maximum, so we don't overcrowd our schools, we don't overcrowd our streets, we don't overcrowd all of the infrastructure by making more than one house per acre. So if, with that flexibility, then does that give the potential for that to happen? To be more than
more dense than
more dense.
It's all up to you, because the
So
language,
so we can,
language-
we can say yay or nay. But that's the thing, is like council down the road can say, okay, well, we're just gonna put more density in there, and
They can
That
do
can
that
happen anyway, that
Yeah.
can happen anyway, anyone can.
and that's kind of the thing is, we would write the ordinance to be, once again, taking a lot of this stuff out of this, but putting it in just a kind of how our current conditional zoning that they did, for Marvin Gardens and stuff, they use that kind of language, but we make it specific for the MHD, and we add some things tying it into the specific plan that will be adopted. But yeah, since it's just now text in a zoning ordinance with density and stuff, you can identify that as if you want to say, okay, the total acreage for this original proposed district was 1 acre, or just, I don't know, let's say 500 acres. So it was like, okay, that's 500 houses. That's the amount of, but it's time change. All it is a simple zoning text amendment.
Yeah, I mean, they can change the density at any point.
So the other
Meaning
question
council.
that I have on this is, okay, so we're gonna be providing the streetscape from the village's standpoint. So if we're rezoning plot by plot, how does that work for us to create continuity within this district and design our streetscape for everybody to be able to build to? That's gonna be something that I can't quite understand. If we're not rezoning all at one time, how do we make this district
We
work
don't
out?
allow it to happen unless they conform with what.
No,
the
but what
next
I'm
guy-
saying is that
that we
we, the village is responsible for the streetscape development.
Right.
So we have to do that all at once. We have the grant money, we have our money that
It's
we
not
gotta
like we're
pony
gonna
up
do a little bit and then stop and
Yeah,
then
we gotta
skip
do it
a
all at
couple of
once.
parcels.
to pull it together to make it contiguous.
Cohesive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then trying to rezone, say that one on that corner and then one over here, but then what about the rest of them? When did they come in? Whenever they get good and ready to come in and rezone, that leaves us with this in the middle here. That's not, how do we develop that?
You can still adopt this full boundary as an MSD. Doesn't matter, even if they're not rezoning, and you can, cause you'll then, in theory, get that tax and can still
Do those
do those things. The other thing is you can do, you
Makes
know,
sense.
take it where we put in the development standards where they have to put in sidewalk and certain things like that. And if there is no connectivity or, you know, development here, we can ask them to pay the town. We hold that money and we try to redevelop it as we should, but it's not with necessarily existing money from the village.
Well, one of the things that we had discussed too is that we didn't feel that it was fair to tax them on the increased tax rate if they were still residential like they are now. So that might be another thing to consider there is like.
But that still wouldn't happen until they rezone, correct?
Say that again.
So we didn't want to raise the tax rate to the municipal district tax overlay if they're still private residents. We don't want to hit
One
them in the
home
head
on
with that.
27 acres.
Right,
for
so-
instance, and-
Yeah.
So instead of, because we don't want to collect that, I mean, we don't want to hurt somebody that's been a long time resident here and hit them over the head with a tax.
And maybe has no
overlay
plans to do anything and just wants to live on his property for,
until, yeah, and so,
he's not around anymore.
you know, reassessing the whole district as one tax district,
Mhm.
I'm not sure that we're comfortable with from what we've discussed. Like all of it once to say, okay, well, we're just gonna raise the tax on the whole district to then do our development. So this is where it gets a little bit sticky, is like,
Yeah.
you know, how do we develop this correctly? How do we get this, all these pieces together? And so far, outside of the aesthetics, I'm still liking the form-based code part of it for how we've been trying to develop it. So, you know, I'm still kind of, I still have a lot of questions on how to get down that road.
But we
So-
would we collect the MSD?
Yeah.
HD.
MSD, Municipal Service District, that's
Okay.
Yeah, would we
Okay.
collect the tax before they rezone it?
well, let me try. I don't have an answer for that yet because I'm trying to figure out, because I'm trying to make sure I understand your point about taxing houses that have been here for so many years.
So like, okay, so purple property.
Yep.
Big purple property, that's one guy. So until he's ready to make it mixed use or make it all residential or whatever, we don't want to tax him the MSD tax until he's ready to move forward. Until he rezones it to this conditional zoning district.
Okay, so if the village was going to fully go through the rezoning and do it for them, what was the village thinking about doing then? And the same thing with the tax.
We were gonna wait until they developed it.
Okay.
Correct?
I believe that's the direction.
That's what I
So
recall.
the-
We didn't want to hit them with a tax increase until they developed the property
Right.
to be able to support the tax increase.
Right.
So then you don't have to necessarily either one, create the MSD at first, but two, I still think in my opinion, I don't think you see a difference between rezoning it all at once versus doing it at once, because it still comes down to the property owner has to do when they want, what they want to, when they want to.
But then-
So,
No,
oh,
go
it's-
ahead.
I was gonna say, so then when you're talking about like streetscape and stuff, if you're not gonna do an MSD for the existing people that have been here, it's still, I feel like it would play out the same. I mean, the full intent's still there, because it's still, this is our future land use plan for this area.
So we would just go ahead and do this, because I mean, we got the grant money,
Mhm.
so we would just go ahead and do it.
I think it would also help spur development.
And it would
Well,
be
yeah,
on one side or
absolutely
the
will,
other, the streetscape.
But how do we
We
do
plan.
that?
One side,
I mean, how,
I think.
How do we go
What side is
about, like, the property acquisition to do the streetscape? I mean, everybody's gonna have to voluntarily put in for the streetscape, because we've gotta put it there somewhere. So it's gonna take up part of these parcels for the streetscape for this development. So how do we go about that? Because the village is gonna end up being responsible for the construction and the maintenance of this all the way, you know.
Perpetuity.
Yeah, right. So how, I guess, I guess we would have to get easements from each one of these property owners to be able to build our streetscape,
Yeah,
because it encroaches their private property.
Correct.
yeah.
So in doing that, you know, in this planning of this district, how do we go about making sure that we can do that and then have the development done all at once? And then, like you said, it would encourage development because the infrastructure's there, so they can build to it, and it just makes it much more accessible.
I think that's where, if we go the route of the conditional zoning, at the time, you know, it depends on, you know, what's gonna come first. Because if we're in the process, we know what the streetscape's gonna do. Let's say we already know which side it's gonna be, and that's where we're trying to acquire land. And we get an application for a property that potentially, what they're proposing would mess up what we've already figured out on the streetscape thing. You can either deny it, or we can just ask them. I mean, they'll take that into consideration and redevelop their configuration, and just reapply, or you know, that will kind of be in conversation prior. So, you know, I think it just depends on what does come first. I think if, you know, you're looking at all the development at once and then the streetscape, or if you do the streetscape and then you'll then have that control to cater the development to the streetscape.
I'm thinking the streetscape and then cater the
Yeah.
development to the streetscape, from my view, but.
So one of the concerns they have is like across the street from here where they took and put residential homes on 30-some acres.
Mhm.
Okay, so, which means that, okay, are we deciding to put the streetscape on this side or on that side? Because they're right in the heart of the Heritage District, would they be automatically in that?
No, they're left out, they're left out of it,
They are left out.
right?
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
They're left out of it.
But-
Okay, so
but
it's
they can-
unlikely we would put a streetscape because there's a graveyard right there. And we put the streetscape on that side, is that what I'm hearing?
I can't speak
I'm asking
for.
that.
I suppose we could acquire right of way on both sides of the street if we wanted to do a streetscape on both sides, but we'd have to get the right of way from each one of those property owners to be able to do that. So if we wanted to put a sidewalk over there, then we'd have to go to them and say, hey, can we get a right of way to put our sidewalk along the road to be able to connect that side of the road? And I think at some point, it's going to be visited. I think we're gonna have to, because at this point, to make this work, you're gonna have to have both sides of the road, at least some kind of sidewalk and streetscape to make it all,
Walkability.
make it walkability, because you wanna be able to walk down both sides, one way or the other, especially with it being this road. So that development may come into play down the road, and we don't know who's gonna be, you know, we don't know if they're gonna stay there forever or not, and whoever may be their kids take over, whatever. You know, and what's the church gonna do about the cemetery, about a sidewalk in front of the cemetery? It's not encroaching on the cemetery because it sits back off the road, but will they give us a right of way to be able to develop that? So there's a lot of questions there on the development part. I know we can control what we have, but.
Yeah.
The right of way that off of DOT roads is pretty big. Do you happen to know what it is off the top of your head?
It's gonna vary, but typically it's gonna be anywhere from, I think, 45 to 60 feet.
From
And so even
H.
so no, that's total right of way. So let's say if it's a 60-foot right of way, the road might only be 20 feet, 40 feet wide in total. So then there's 10 feet on each side. Maybe not even that on
So then
how
we
wide
have
the
to
road
deal
is.
with DOT encroachment agreements for our streetscape on top of this. But then if we end up purchasing the road, then that becomes the whole thing would be our right of way, right? So then we have the right to develop within that right of way,
Mhm.
whatever we want.
That's correct, but I think the point is that we may not have to get easements from the property owners because it should be able to be encompassed within that right of way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's something that we need to really nail down though, is to make sure that we know exactly what the parameters are, because I do know from discussions we've had with Rohit before, some of these right-of-ways, the way they built the roads, they were skewed to one side or the other of the
Correct.
right-of-way, and it doesn't always center. So that, like, for instance, over here in front of PDS's driveway, the edge of the asphalt is on the edge of the right-of-way. There is no shoulder in the right-of-way, and it's just the way it was laid out and how it was built. So I want to make sure that we don't have anything like that on this, where we would have to do something like that.
Yeah, and that's going to be, in conjunction with DOT / having an engineer look at, also what works. I mean, because it could come down to kind of slope of certain areas and stuff like that. But, I'm not sure with certain properties in right of way. It also could, that's where the attorney, they could read different on the deed than it actually shows on the map. I mean, I've seen it happen, and that's the only reason I'm saying that. So, there's a lot to, I guess, put together to actually figure that out, and that's something that would be probably in the very early preliminary stages of us going through the streetscape process. But as it is into terms with the MHD overall, I'm not sure, because outside of what's in this form-based code, like I said, all this stuff's still going to be adopted into a plan.
Okay.
So we're going to have this as a small area. Everything in here plus more will be adopted as a small area strategic plan for this area. And we will also amend or update our land use plan to incorporate all this. And so I was just going to say, so this is kind of the guide. This is the vision book. This is what we want here. So that's where it's, once again, kind of then get into the development itself with the conditional zoning. You, as elected officials now, as well as whoever it is down the road, if it's 5, 10, 15 years, hopefully it's, when I say hopefully it's sooner rather than later, I mean for the development, not that you guys don't get reelected and stuff. But with that, what I'm also trying to get at is that this is your vision, this is what you guys want. And so if a developer comes and is proposing this, it kind of just gets back to, hey, it's not going to work. Either if we did, because especially if we have the streetscape thing already put in place.
So if we go down the conditional zoning district avenue, so option number 3, what's the next step for that?
So the next steps would be, and Tom, I might have you chime in here if I say something wrong. We would go back and start making this the strategic small area plan for the MHD. And then we go back to the committee, and that's what our kind of focus would be, as well as what needs to be added on with certain other design elements that's not necessary in here. It's been kind of all recommendations. I think Tom's already got an outline, but essentially we would take this, and this would be a majority base of that small area plan. They would review, we would kind of keep finishing the draft, and then it would come, and we'd actually adopt it as a formal plan, as well as adopt it into our land use plan. At the same time, we'd be drafting the specific conditional zoning language to put in our zoning ordinance.
Okay.
What's the time frame on that? If we said, today we said, okay, we like this, and what are we looking at?
What do you think?
Okay. Tom Whitenauer, and my goal is to be quiet unless I'm needed, and he's been doing a great job and great discussion. Don't have a single thing to correct. The time frame, from what I understand we need to do, is to not rush, and we kind of want to work our way back from the committee to the planning board to the council.
Right.
Is depending on the workload, because Hunter's going to be leading this just as Rohit was. Kind of based on his workload, I would say a few months to give him some breathing room to do a good job on the other areas of his responsibilities. The strategic plan is another big body of work, and the discussion about the right-of-way is just the kind of thing you're going to need to start engaging yourself and others, professionals in those kind of fields, about the MSD that planners typically don't have, of thinking big picture and maintenance. And do you contract the maintenance? Are there village staff, or how do you do that? And you're already experiencing some of those growth pains, maybe with the town council, the village hall construction. You have staff doing some construction administration that is extra, and at some point can they not do their sort of regular jobs well? So you've got to think about recruiting businesses. You don't want to just hope the best ones show up. You may want to have someone that actually goes out and finds those cool places like you saw in Ketchikan, or sort of homegrown look and feel, not just potentially chain restaurants or something like that, even if they are designed by the standards. So anyway, for the form-based code, I can only discuss the form-based code part of the strategic plan. The strategic plan in itself could be a year to do it and do it well. I have no idea. I'm not an expert in that, as I said.
I want to add in too is that it can kind of be, in my opinion, I think it can be two-phased. Is that if we want to get the development, if we want, with some of the landowners that I know of that are kind of waiting to see what happens, and they have kind of developers or plans in place, if we want to, see what they want to do and start going through the process, it could probably take 2 to 3 months to actually get this adopted as a small area kind of land use plan. What's kind of the design and everything, and then the actual strategic plan of kind of the other stuff can then either be added to it, or once again kind of encompassed, then this would be encompassed into that plan. But that would then get this on the books as well as have it to refer to in the specific conditional zoning language in our ordinance.
So, I guess the reason I asked that is because we're 3 months out from an election. We're adding another council member to the factor. We may see a sea of change in council members, and they may say, hell no. And then we did all this work, and now it's like back to square one. So and I'm just throwing it out there that it's not something that, I think we continue to move forward. I think I'd like, with the permission of council, to bring, I think,
Yes.
John, you wanted to comment on something?
Planning board has been involved in this for years, and y'all have just sort of gotten bits of it. And, and it's multifaceted. The whole thing is, it's got lots of pieces. Obviously the zoning is part of it, the streetscape is part of it, which streetscape then brings in right-of-ways and, all this stuff. And at one point in time, I had to go back, maybe, we had sort of a big, this is everything that will be involved in creating this district. They didn't, just sort of wrote everything down. The zoning, the streets, all of that stuff. And then you can start moving it around time-wise. This needs to be done first and this, but we need to keep focused on the big picture of everything that's involved. And I think it would be probably worthwhile someone going back and recreating all those, at least jotting down all those pieces so that we can then focus on them.
You're referring to a master plan, maybe?
No.
You can't say that word in this town.
Dirty word, dirty word.
Hey, no, that vision plan is just one of those
Yeah,
pieces.
vision plan, not.
That's just one of those pieces. But, it is, and 5 years ago, or whatever it was, whenever I first was introduced to all this stuff, oh, that's easy. No, it's not. It has been quite a process.
So if I
And like I said, I think, you could lose the the overall vision of the forest by looking at the trees too much.
So I would like to ask your opinion. Do you, because you've had all this experience with all these different plans, what's your opinion between what he's presenting now and the form-based plan? I know you kind of warmed up to that form-based code because you weren't really familiar with it, and which I liked it for what it was, but what's your thought on this?
We were concerned, the planning board, about the look of the residential part because we were told no. And, and I mentioned to a couple of people that we understood our direction, right or wrong, but, Marvin doesn't want any more conditional zoning districts. And, Kim, you said you didn't think we had ruled against it. It very specifically, if you go back and look at the ordinance, it says these are the only ones and there will be no more. They're listed. Amber Meadows, Marvin Gardens, there were like 3 of them or something. And there are no more. And there is no conditional zoning in our ordinance, period. So
I know we removed that.
It was removed. And so that's the reason we didn't go down that path then.
Did you guys remove it?
It was, it was a couple councils ago.
Okay.
I mean, it
Unless
was
they're
very,
about it now.
it was
So that
erased.
brings up something else then that kind of throws a wrench in the works. So where do we go from here?
Well, you
I mean,
recreate
we
it.
can change it.
You should always have to change it though.
So, yeah, the two things I want to mention is that the form-based code is not necessarily going away. All of this stuff is still going to be there. It's just not going to be adopted into the code because we don't have the authority to do some of it. It's either we have to amend this and take certain things out.
Which we don't want to.
Right.
Exactly, or you keep that and make it a plan, and then in the ordinance that we would draft for the conditional zoning, you would
We would have to
reference and
change
say
the
the design standards set by the Marvin Heritage District small area land use plan, whatever. But all of that's still in here, because that's the thing is when I came in, I didn't want to go back to, step one and go backwards, but it's like, this is kind of a pivot where it still encompasses all the work that's been put in, if it's previous staff or previous, council, the committee, all of that, but still kind of gets us to what council's goal is and concern of regulating the residential.
We can always change our ordinance to add back in a conditional zone.
Correct, because basically what would happen is like I said, it would be step 1A would be working on this, and step 1B would also be drafting text language to go into our zoning ordinance to allow for a Marvin Heritage District conditional zone, and that would all be once again approved and reviewed by the committee, planning board, and ultimately reviewed and decided
But
on.
beyond, could we create an ordinance beyond the Heritage District? We wouldn't continue moving forward, no more conditional use?
Correct. If that's up to you.
Permits?
The-
Okay, I'm asking.
So no,
because I don't
Not
know.
permits,
Permits,
just.
just a conditional zoning district.
Zoning, yes.
This district would only apply to this boundary.
That's what I'm saying. So we could actually create without really hurting our ordinance for Marvin as a whole.
Yeah.
Because we're just focused on Marvin Heritage District and creating a conditional use zone within that Heritage District.
So
I'm assuming we're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
well, let me, then help me understand why this conditional zoning was rejected. Why do we not want this anymore? Why is
It's
this
a
not on the
state-
books?
I can't speak for other council members who decided to put that through and those who were.
Because
Pushing
it
that
doesn't
direction.
make sense to me for potential development that we wouldn't use this as it's a much more, gives us more tools to control what gets built and how it's gotten built. It seems like that just goes away from
I agree.
what we really want to do for Marvin, so I don't know why we would want to limit it to just this. I think we go
Pretty
back
big,
in.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm just trying to, make sense of why.
Devil's
The good news is
Yeah.
we're almost built out,
Yeah.
unless we take on
Oh,
more
well, but
properties.
that's
and
what we're talking about.
But they're already built out
They're already
anyway.
built out.
Yeah,
So-
So, but if we, if something was to arise somewhere down the road, would we not want that back in? Because if we're gonna add it back in for this, why not just keep it on the books?
Well, I mean, I think you're gonna have to take it case by case, and then if we need to change another area, then we just add it in.
As-
Yeah.
And, this is kind of a side topic with that, as I'm getting familiar with the zoning ordinance, there's certain things in there, I'm like, it doesn't make sense on why certain things are in there, or the consistency and connectivity of certain things, but,
That all knowing look.
what I'm also getting to is like,
No.
there might be recommendations for staff in the long run, that's once again still ultimately approved by the elected officials, that, hey, here's some language that might help.
Need to
just-
be changed,
Yeah.
updated.
And what really, a little background on why we got to why this recommendation I think works is where I came from, the town and the zoning ordinances I used to be familiar with, they had language about, it's called planned unit developments. It's kind of
Planning,
planned unit developments, PUDs, PUDs. It's, and Tom can maybe add, because the way I'll explain it is, I always interpret them as similar to a conditional zoning when it comes to any type of commercial use, because PUDs are basically, there would be, just an example of language is that it was any type of commercial. I've seen residential ones for like mixed use apartment condos and stuff, but let's just take a commercial entity one, and that was, a certain amount of acreage and was going to have more than 2 buildings. And they would produce a site plan, and you would have the council would have all the control to regulate aesthetics, signage, placement of buildings, all this other stuff. It kind of like what happened with Marvin Gardens, and that's why I see Marvin Gardens in my head as a PUD, but at the same time it's a conditional zoning district. So that's kind of how it got to where this is at, but that still did not help us solve the problem. How do we regulate residential design on single family? Because you, like I said, if you do multifamily or other stuff, you have that authority if you did it as a planning development for residential. And so, with talking with Tom, some of my colleagues, and having a discussion with Tom and was it Rick from the president of InFocus, it kind of took all these ideas that I had or was trying to do and putting into what's legal and what we do have the authority to do, and that's how we got to doing it this way.
So then basically where we go from here is changing the ordinance to allow conditional zoning
For
district.
the Marvin Heritage
For the
District.
Marvin
Yeah.
Heritage District, and then start working on this plan, because it sounds to me like, from what I'm hearing from everybody, this is the direction that we probably want to go in to be able to control this the way we want to develop this without it getting like out of hand. We
Yeah.
want it to be.
So, and then if that's the case, if that's kind of the direction we decide to go in, it'll go to the strategic committee and planning board, so we probably won't see it for a while again.
I would say at the earliest, unless we try doing like I said, the planning and the language at the same time, you wouldn't see it earliest for the first time, I would say, until maybe like the October.
And that's fine, and that's fine.
It could be earlier.
John's like,
No, yeah, I know. It's because, like I said, my goal is not to change.
It might be in
Because from my
December before the
understanding,
planning board gets done with it.
from my understanding is everybody, for the most part, if it was the committee, planning board, and council, liked
Yeah.
the stuff in here. So it's basically taking, once again, making this a plan, taking the same language, tweaking it to where we have that authority, and putting it into a regular conditional zoning district.
Okay.
So it kind of, does depend on time, but it's kind of how quick can we get it back, and then other tweaks like
I don't
that.
want to do it quickly. I want
Correct.
to do it right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Bob, we haven't heard from you. Anything you want to comment on?
My mind is really deep. I've been into this at 5,000 miles, I'm into this at 50,000 miles, and I'm listening intently.
Come up with.
I think we're in the right direction. My concern
detailed.
is that I think this all started with us having a quaint little coffee house on the strip and it blending in. Then it turned into, to support any little coffee houses, we're gonna put in residential. And thank you, and everybody's been saying good things. And Amy, thank you for your comment that we're looking at it like, okay, let's make the area where people would want to move into Marvin. Let's maybe have more, here it comes, affordable housing, more, of a environment where people can downsize or young families could come in. My first vision of this is, why does Marvin have to do that? There's other areas that that people can move into and be close to Marvin. Why does Marvin feel an obligation to do that? But I understand residential, with my background, residential substantiates the district with all of the coffee shops. I'll use that vernacular. But my then concern is the chicken and the egg. And again, thank you, Hunter, for kind of entertaining that conversation. The chicken and the egg. So what if, and I understand, I like where we're going here, but my concern is the timing. I think we're looking at this thing, we started this thing, and now it's turned into, we're not, but what I'm saying, we're kind of like, we're going to build a Birkdale Village, and it's all going to happen at once. And I think that's where we looked at it, where in terms, this is going to take time. So, for example, using an example of the Crane store, it's been sitting there for whenever. Now, I don't know what the plans are, don't know anything about the Crane store, but that's something that could turn into the general mass store of some sort. But when is that going to happen? And then, all of a sudden, let's just say, on both ends of the district, residential comes in. And because they're the first coming up, and this is what we're concerned about timing. They come up and they say, oh, we're gonna build, more, whatever you wanna call it, whatever it is, density housing or whatever it might be, to support what's gonna happen with the district. Okay, so that, they came to the table first. All right, so when does everything else fill in that supports that? And what if it's years? In other words, here's all this housing, but there's no businesses, there's no coffee shop. Where'd the coffee shop go? So my concern is the timing, but to everybody's point, we would want to have control. I like that control, that we can determine what is going to come in, and looking at it from a Burkeville Village point of view, does this work, you know? And then, of course, then you got the infrastructure, you've got sidewalks. You know, I've been visiting a community in Kent, Connecticut, where they have a beautiful town hall, 3,000 residents, and the city council there is about to vote on $3 million in sidewalks. And I'm sitting there going, interesting, you know, there's a lot of maintenance that starts happening when we're starting to do this thing. So I have a whole lot of thoughts about it, but I mean, I like the mentality, direction we're going. My concern is the timing on this. Does that all make sense?
It does, but I don't know if any time you can control timing on stuff like this.
And
I mean,
with that, I think there are some, I mean, I feel like that there are at least 3 of these property owners that are ready to go whenever we can give them the go ahead to go.
I would hope. Yeah, I would hope.
So with the timing, that's at least a really good head, you know, getting started kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I think if we do the streetscapes, that just says, okay, now we got this one, and this one done,
And we're committed to
and we've
this.
committed this streetscape, and everybody else will be like, oh, well, now I've got connectivity, this makes sense, it's gonna, you know, I'm ready to move now too, because I have this in place. So I think it'll go fairly, I think it'll roll along pretty good. I don't foresee this going past 10 years to be completed. 100% complete. I don't feel like it's gonna go past that to be 100% complete. And I feel like that, yeah, and I feel like that probably at least 50% of it will be done in the first 3 years.
But Bob, are you good with moving forward with the
Yeah,
conditional zoning and working on updating the ordinance?
Listening to, I probably have a few more questions, but I think we've done a good job of discussing it. You know, I don't have a problem moving forward.
Okay, well, what are your questions?
No.
What are your questions?
No, the questions is, again, I think it's the best. I think it's the best. It's allowing control. I don't have any questions. I may have some questions afterwards as I give some more thought to this.
Okay, but you're good if we move in that direction, and then again, we're gonna revisit it a bunch, I'm sure, so we'll get updates as we go.
Yes.
Okay.
It's likely this will be voted on technically after the election, but I don't see any problem in moving forward in what we're talking about. I think we're all, can we all agree that we're, and I don't know if we have to take a vote on it or not, but what you're talking about, option number 3 is probably our best option, assuming that we can
And working on the
get to the
updating the
conditional
ordinance.
zoning
Yeah.
within the heritage district only.
Yeah, because I mean, and I think the reason it went this way is because I don't think we could adopt the form-based code, have the residential only then as a conditional district within the form-based code. Could we? I don't think. That's kind of why we didn't go that route. It's kind of like because it just that's getting too many stuff intertwined. So with that being said, it's kind of going this approach because what that does do is like at this time all these properties stay residential, and so you're never going to see. I mean, you're not if you would maybe adopt and do this like yeah, so it has to get approved, but it's like it opens up different uses. But what the doing it this way is, like I said, it provides that flexibility where they propose something and it's voted on if we like it or not. So. I think this is the best way, and I think it also helps that we're utilizing the form-based code because that's what people like, and even though that's not what's going to be in our code, we're taking everything out of it and it's going to be an adopted plan that drives the language in the code and drives decisions made by the legislative officials.
All right, let's do it.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right, so you got sort of marching orders, if you will?
Direction?
Do you want a
Direction?
motion?
You need any motions?
You want a motion or just consensus?
I guess real quick, maybe we'll bring this
Go ahead.
up. I was in a,
You have one more thing?
no, we're good, we're good, we're good.
Sure.
Positive.
Sidebar?
Sidebar, we're good.
Don't do it,
All
Hunter.
right, so you have consensus, so you have direction to go.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
All right,
Tom.
thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Tom.
Tom.
Next up, we,
Oh, bye, John. Thanks, John.
Bye, John.
Hi, John.
John, thanks for coming.
Good thing I talked to John yesterday. He thought the meeting was at 6:30. Austin.
What?
Good thing I talked to John yesterday. He thought the meeting was at 6:30.
All right, we're almost done here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to have to order lunch. All right, next up, review of council minutes from 6/28/21 Village Hall Design Finishes Subcommittee, 7/13/21 regular meeting, and 7/29/21 work session meetings.
I have 0 changes for any of these.
Same with me, no changes.
Thank you so much.
I'm good with them myself. Austin does such a good job.
He really does. Thank you, Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, except for getting the times right for the meeting.
Oh, one newsletter. But if you notice, the only way you can join the meeting virtually is through the ones that were all correct.
Okay.
I'll double check next time.
That said, I'll need a motion to put the,
You don't need a motion for consent.
oh, okay, we'll just move those to
them to
consent for the
consent.
regular meeting, okay?
Okay.
Moving on. Items of discussion number 11. Reminder, candidate questionnaires are due Friday, July 30th at noon.
You've gotten yours. You've done yours.
I'm doing mine when we leave here.
Good. I've got one more. You're eligible as well.
So what's, you did get another one?
I just got one from Wayne Deathridge. So
Oh, okay,
almost
great.
everyone is
So
participating.
what's cool about it, when you do it, it slaps your hands when you're over the 150 word.
Oh, good. They got that figured out.
They did.
Because I was like,
They did.
I pressed submit and it went, all the bells went off saying, no, you're talking too much. And I was
Can
like,
we get one of those for
"Damn."
our meetings?
I said, damn, I said, Austin had it figured out. But for those of you candidates that are out there, please do that because I think it's the best way to have a fair representation of who you are. It gives you an opportunity to speak. We'll put it out there. And
we're all
again, you
answering
can
the same
decide
questions.
where you want to go with, because I will say that formal editorial type, even though I think someone disagreed in a recent meeting, but formal editorial type, like whatever it is, that comes out weekly, they're out there and they're going to ask questions and what you stand on and stuff. So you're free to ask that. But there's individuals out there that profess to be a reporting company or a news company type thing, and it's just not. And it's created a lot of noise out there in the community. So that's why we formed the questionnaire. I encourage every candidate to do that. And it's Friday at noon.
Friday at noon. If you've already submitted yours to me, check to see if it looks right. If you haven't sent a photo and you want to add a photo, do that by the deadline. Because after the deadline, they're done.
Too bad.
They're not. They're up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next up, open topics.
Nope.
Nothing. All right. F, communications, discussion of August 2021 communications. Austin, you back up.
All right. So this is the draft list. Is there holidays in August? I don't know if I put holidays on here.
There aren't.
Okay, good.
I looked.
Uh,
Can we have something go out every single day about National Night Out until?
yes.
Okay.
Now that I'm back in town, I'll try to get something out.
I put that on your to-do list.
Yeah, Derek messaged me about it. I'll try to get something out by this evening, and then I'll have something automated.
And
Good. But
for
daily.
For those of you,
Countdown. We've got 5
I
days
can
left.
I can do emails automated.
We can do.
Yeah.
Okay.
and I'll make a commitment to at least reach out to my HOA and say, hey, please put that in our own personal newsletter, because you get it from, not everyone signed up for this, but they have everyone's email in our HOAs.
I can send an email to HOAs.
I do it.
You gotta do it because they're just hammer that and say, look, we really.
They won't respond, but they'll get it.
That's okay.
That's okay.
It's okay. They gotta know that it's available, and it's again what day?
Tuesday the
Tuesday.
3rd.
This Tuesday. coming up.
Dunking booth.
Unfortunately, I won't be there to see Joe take a bath, so.
Am I on for a dunking booth?
I am not aware of this.
Yep.
I mean, I could be. Maybe just throw a hose on me. All right. Anything else?
Do you guys have any topics you want to add? Things you want to take off?
Yeah, I want some solid waste frequently asked questions, FAQ type stuff.
We've sent out 2 of those so far. We can do another one if we're still
I'd
getting
like to
questions.
Do another one.
Okay.
Just keep sending it out.
And all the FAQs for solid waste are going on the website. We've turned the solid waste page into like a departmental page.
Good.
So those are all on there, and I need to add them to the FAQ section of the website. But
Perfect.
that's in the works too.
Perfect.
Um,
okay. I got first day of school for Union County will be 8:23. Buses are going to be out. Kids are going to be out waiting for buses. Parents are going to be taking kids. Everybody, slow down. Slow down, Mr. Mayor.
Do you have anyone have any new ideas for the time capsule for Village Hall? I've just got that on there. If you want to add anything,
I'm donating my mask.
You might need it again, Joe.
put it behind.
It'll have DNA of me, so
Oh, God, they'll
50
clone you.
years from now. In Kim's dress that she wore at the opening.
Okay.
Kim's dress.
What did you say, Bob?
Her pink
I think pink
No,
and
I
orange
had
dress.
fun with the mask thing.
Yeah.
helmet.
And Mary,
Okay, what about, do we have coffee with council in August dates?
Yeah, they're on there.
Okay.
Yeah, you got.
When's the next
you have
one?
the next.
I know, but have we picked people?
Yes, you've
Okay.
picked people through
August?
September.
Through September, okay, cool.
So you'll pick October through December at your September regular.
I'm
meeting.
on for the 24th. I don't know.
I don't have the list in front of me of who's on which day, but
Who's on first?
I can
Yeah.
check the calendar if you want.
Austin, have you been able to figure out how to send a reminder before the actual minute of the meeting?
Yeah, seriously.
Oh yeah, I'll work on that. Completely forgot about that.
No, but I mean like
Andy
when
stood me up the other day.
the meeting reminder comes at the time of the meeting. It doesn't come.
Like,
Two
an-
hours.
Yeah, that's just a setting.
It's like,
You don't look out like in your week or what you're going to be.
Do you? I'll look into. I'll look into that.
I'm busy.
I know.
everywhere.
We all got stuff to do.
Keep up with all the stuff. A simple reminder like that
It might be
morning.
how I said it. I said,
Great, then I can like
Not standing
Just
not leave Kim hanging.
out.
you were asking, I know I'm with Coffee with Council. Were you asking, like, I'm at 6 PM. Am I with you?
on the 24th?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just said the 5th.
No, I don't know. Is the 5th a coffee with council date? I don't know.
That's what I wrote down.
All right, I only wrote when I'm, so
Oh, I got you. Okay.
I'm flexible. So if you guys need someone to pop in, I'll do that.
I'm more than happy to be
So
here.
let's just say this. I'll go on the record to say this. If you show up, coffee with council, and your person who's supposed to be assigned does not show up, even though it'd be nice to get maybe if we know what's happening, no offense, it's just give them a quick little text or a call.
No,
and say,
no, I
you're
can't.
on for tomorrow. I usually know when I'm on, but some don't. I mean, you're
Andy?
supposed to write it down, and then one of these things they have when your meetings, they give you an alert you can do a day before and stuff like that. That's what I usually do, just to kind of remind myself. And then I always set an alarm for that day an hour before. But I'm usually available, so if something happens and we don't have another person here,
Andy.
How
give me a call and I can see if I can scoot over.
I'm gonna. So the next
Unless I'm making dinner.
Bob and Jamie are up next week. I'm gonna change the reminder. How long before one happens do y'all want reminders?
If you send it the day before, I'm good.
Yeah.
One day.
That doesn't necessarily work for Jamie
Now,
because
if-
he may be traveling.
If this doesn't work,
But
if
he should at least respond to you in a text and commit to responding in a text. And I say text because not everyone's getting their emails right away, but if you have everyone's phone numbers, right? Personal phone
Yes.
numbers. Send them a text and say, you're on for tomorrow night, if that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Because if they don't say, oh, I can't make it or whatever, then just reach out to me. I'm usually available for mornings and, so.
I've changed this on here, so a reminder should go out the day before. If it doesn't, that means it's a setting on your computer. So,
Okay.
Well, as long as I get the reminder the day before, I'm flexible enough that I can say, hey, oh crap, I've got this tomorrow, I can do it. And it's usually the daytime meetings are the worst for me anyway, but
Okay.
it's just, I get caught up and I forget about it.
Okay.
Can't believe you forgot about it.
Anything else?
That's cool.
All right. Moving forward, we have
You're unforgettable, Kim.
Christina. Open up your mic. We got manager's report. You got anything for us?
She
Yeah, I
left.
just wanted to mention to you that we conducted finance officer interviews this week and we'll potentially be making an offer at the end of the week. And
You did what?
Yeah.
I didn't hear what she said.
Talk louder, Christina.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said in the very beginning. You did what?
That's exciting.
We interviewed for the finance officer position,
Oh, good.
so we will potentially be making an offer at the end of the week.
Awesome.
You mean
Good deal.
tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow.
That would be the end of the week.
Awesome.
Good deal.
Yeah, that's great.
Excited. Look forward to hearing about that.
Second,
Go ahead.
second thing I wanted to mention was the ARP funds.
Yeah.
We are still getting updates on that. We are expecting to have the final rule come out here shortly. From everything that I'm reading, they're recommending that we don't really do anything until that final rule comes out. So
Okay.
I'll have more information back to you. I've actually got a couple things
Which one?
that I'm working on that I want to
American Rescue Plan.
Get some more finite
American Rescue.
plans before I mention them to you guys.
I know a bunch of the WUMA people have been talking about that since the last meeting. They've gotten their numbers in. I know there's some pretty big restrictions, and basically the biggest chunk of money can only go towards infrastructure. So there was some chatter about possibly working with the county to get those funds transferred to the county to be able to use it for that.
Yeah.
But there was some talk with that.
Well,
So that's
it'll find
something
its
that
way
we'll
into
continue to.
nowhere land. If
Well-
we're gonna accept it, it should come to us.
Well, but that's the thing. If we don't do water and sewer, we can't use it.
Well, there's opportunities for water and sewer.
Water and sewer along this district.
Okay, well, if we can do it here and we can use those funds for it, but it's so limited. That's
Well, let's-
what the consensus I was getting from the WUMA
Yeah.
meeting.
Well, let's wait and see what they final
See what they
ruling
come
is.
back with.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Christina?
No, one of the things that we can try to get a little bit creative in the sense that, water and sewer replacements were just done, actually sewer line replacement was just done along, Marvin Road in front of Innisbrook. And so I'm gonna approach the county about the concept of potentially pitching into that project in exchange for them potentially putting up a sidewalk in that area. So if they can do something like that where it's a little bit creative, then it'll be a good use of those funds too.
Okay.
All right. You need some help?
Secondly, with the whole village hall process, we have had to up our technology in the council chambers and, throughout the area of that construction. So I'm gonna try to get a lot of the technology covered under ARP just because we're doing this to kind of recover from the pandemic.
Great. That's a
Okay.
good idea.
Good angle.
We're still working on a couple of other things. We have a meeting with the municipalities in Union County and Union County beginning of August. So we'll hopefully have some more detail about how we can collaboratively work together at a later date.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. I got questions for you.
Okay.
Where are we with Village Hall? Are they doing anything?
They putting brick
They
down?
are.
They did
Start
what?
construction last week. You can't really see anything yet, but they are
I'm
going to
driving.
start the actual building. They were starting on footings. We are meeting hopefully on site with them on Friday. Councilmember Wortman and I have been discussing a little bit of a hiccup with this generator move. So we're going to talk about that on Friday with them. Next Friday, that is.
Next Friday? Okay, well, I'll be available for next Friday. I won't be here tomorrow. I need to talk to you about that generator because it's not making sense to me.
All right. You guys talk about that.
And then the water and
Well, I have
sewer
more
was
questions.
approved, and that vendor was notified of that project, so hopefully they'll get started here shortly on it.
Okay. Cool.
Did we ever get a price back from the digging the well?
Oh, tell them about the well, Christina.
Tell me about the well.
Yeah.
So, the water line, the irrigation lines are actually included in the cost with our vendor, the GC. So those will be included. The source of that water will actually come straight from the water line, so it wouldn't be like well, it would.
So we'd have to build a well.
The thought process behind you all deciding to build a well had to do with Village Hall and roundabouts.
Yes?
So y'all will have to make a decision at some point. I have already notified the well company of us going ahead and beginning with the project, and so we've kind of already committed to that, unless we can pull out now. But the roundabouts will not be irrigated without the well.
Well, that's.
Oh, they won't?
Right, yeah.
No.
So I think you gotta move forward with that because in the end,
Yeah.
there's a long-term cost of city water versus well water. And
Exactly.
if we're doing well water, put that thing in perpetuity, we don't have a bill from, as long as the well keeps.
And the other thing is water
Right.
restrictions, then we can't water. The other thing is it's more responsible to use groundwater to water the plants go back into the ground than using county water supply for
Right,
drinking
right.
water.
Okay.
So I think the well is responsible environmentally and cost.
And
Okay.
cost-wise, long-term, yeah.
All right. So we're still moving forward with the well.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, it just won't serve any of, and maybe we can look at it to serve Village Hall's well.
My only thing, Christina asked me about this because they asked about placement of the well, and my thing is it's got nothing to do with aesthetics, everything to do with mechanics. Put it in a place where it is the most centralized for both Village Hall and for the roundabouts to be able to draw water the best shortest route to everything. A well's well. It's going to be a little
Right.
stone cap out there in the yard somewhere. We'll plant some flowers around it, whatever. It's just going to be there, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
So I guess to Andy's point is we're moving forward with the well, can have that consideration where the best location would be to service both Village Hall, because we don't want to build from county for landscaping. We will have city water for running water, obviously. But so it'll limit our cost going forward, and that'll pay for itself in just a couple of years.
Okay. So we're good with the well.
And
Go
I
ahead.
do want to reiterate for the record that the cost of digging the well is not going to include the cost of running the line from the well to wherever it goes. So that will be an additional cost.
We got it.
Whenever we figure out what that is.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
shouldn't be that bad.
All right. My next question is, where are we with getting the Firethorn puddle fixed? Because it's still
Yeah.
there. I'm pretty sure we said like 4 months ago that if it wasn't done in a month, we were gonna do it and send them a bill.
We need to have some
Yep.
teeth in our.
So where
contract.
are we?
June 14th was the deadline that we gave
It's
Michael. And
July 29th.
I just spoke with him about 2 weeks ago, and he was going to go back out there and look at it. I will get an update from him.
Looking at it doesn't
Fix it.
solve it.
There's still water
We know what
sitting in
needs
it.
to be done, and I see it all the time. So
It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm so irritated with them about this. It needs to be done, and it needs to be done now. And if not, then we'll have our people come out and we'll send them a bill for it.
Yeah,
Or we'll short pay their bill.
Dry Pro is not cheap. I can tell you that. They'd probably get a better deal doing it themselves. But that's what I see solving the
Dry Pro.
problem is basically drilling and injecting polymers to lift that corner up.
You know.
That's what's going to have to happen, and it was not cheap for me to do it, so
Well,
I can't imagine what
It
it would
needs to
cost
be
them to do
done,
it.
so Christina, that needs to be, we need to I want an answer by our by our August meeting.
Okay.
Either we've got somebody out there fixing it and we're short paying their bill because it's their fault because they signed off on it, or they have got it fixed and there's a date that it will be fixed by.
All right.
It's ridiculous.
Last email I sent was on 7/21, so I'll send another.
It's freaking
Okay.
ridiculous.
All right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah. But it's on my review of action item list, so. we're good.
Okay. Thank you, Christina. Planners report, Hunter.
Two quick things. I know I met with the property owner out in Innisbrook, so I kind of came into this.
Both of them or just the one?
Met with both of them.
Oh, good. Not
Where
good.
they have some concerns. You know, basically the reason that it was held up was that Mr. Whitehead, the actual property owner, was going to give, you know, dedicate the easement for the trail access. Well, he kind of got, not necessarily cold feet, but kind of got hesitant because the neighboring property was under contract at the time, and so he knew a new neighbor was coming in and didn't, out of, you know, respect, did not feel comfortable signing the easement, and then his neighbor come in and be like, what the heck, you know, we didn't. With that being said, met with both of them. It's not necessarily that they don't want to do it, it's that they still have their hesitation concerns and more maybe want to see the trail first, the greenway itself. I'm going to, the neighbor, Mr. Pratt, with him being new to the area, he was asking kind of questions on, you know, why greenways, connectivity, and all this other stuff, and I was trying to, you know, answer the best I could. I'm going to send him kind of, you know, some of our plans, surveys, you know, stuff that's saying, hey, you know, this is why council feels the way they do about greenways and are trying to pursue this, because this is what the community wants. This is what, you know, we have plans that are in place. Just to give him a little bit of background information, but hopefully, you know, until that, it seems like Mr. Whitehead's, even though it's his full decision, he doesn't feel
Respecting the neighbors, the aesthetics of what his neighbors got to look at.
Didn't he come to you about wanting to do it?
Well, years ago, he was like, when are we gonna get our connectivity, and
Yeah.
that included, he was more included in the front, but then we recognized there was gonna be a trail kind of in the woods in his backyard, beyond his backyard, and having connectivity would allow us that, you know, how
one of
continuity of
the
trails.
two things that were brought up is obviously the concern of having people coming from the Greenway into Innisbrook, especially by their house. I mean, that's just simple, you know, and I get that. The second one was, you know, I was trying to explain to them, yeah, the connectivity, the access to this Greenway. In the long range plan, there's the loop that does come out right in front of Innisbrook, and that's where they were like, well, if the loop's here and it connects with that down here, people can still go from Innisbrook to the loop to the Greenway if they wanted to. And I mean, I get it, but at the same time, I told him that this is all conceptual though, and we don't know when the loop will be to where that's at, and this gets you access now as well as provides that, you know, what opportunity, I think, great in long term, because this plan's in place, but it's not that we had funding and stuff tied to it.
Right. In all fairness, it's hard for me to imagine people walking on a loop and then wanting to make a left turn or right turn and go into Innisbrook to go where? To just go look at
Yeah.
homes? It doesn't make much sense,
Especially
but
if you can't go
but it
anywhere.
was
but
mainly
you can't go anywhere from there.
it was mainly the conveying to them that, you know, this trail access is for people for Innisbrook to this trail.
Right.
Their argument was that Innisbrook residents can go to the loop to then go to the trail.
How am I gonna get to the
How are
loop?
they gonna get to the loop?
Well, that's what I explained to them, is the loop's not complete right now.
Right, okay.
But,
But I can't.
But where is it? Is it you go out? You mean go out to the front
Mhm.
of their property and then connect, because it just
That's the other way around if they were.
It's the bridge to nowhere, which we may never. I mean, how does that get to the corner over
It
here?
doesn't.
So I'm going to just send them, I'm going to keep trying to work on it, as well as, you know, they asked about specific dates of when the Greenway. I didn't know that off the top of my head. After, you know, talking to Derek earlier, I thought it was within the next year and a half that potentially bids will go out for that.
And let me ask you this: have you actually taken them to see the trail that we did and what that looks like for the entrance of on the corner? Or not? I mean, what's the? It's the same development as this. but it's Preserve. At the end there, because that's actually a nice
It's really nice.
entryway. And say, here's
Why
what
don't
we're
you
doing.
go out there?
I was going to say,
With
so
me.
I
I haven't met
met,
the new owner, so
I've been
I should
exchanging
probably go out
emails.
there too, meet my neighbor.
I was exchanging emails back and forth, and met them Tuesday at like 3:30. And at that, like I said, it was like, you know, they kind of asked questions about the trail and stuff, and I had, you know, the most information I did, but I was like, you know, I'd be happy to, you know, come back and get you additional stuff. And it's not that they're necessarily were asking for the plans and other stuff, but it's like with me kind of just learning about this and kind of the long-term plan of the greenways, I didn't have all the information at the
Oh,
time.
and they've
so,
probably never seen one.
well, and I told her I am aware of those. I'm like, look, you know, this is something that, because I guess the original question about Mr. Brad was like, why is there a greenway going back here? I was like, well, the way the subdivisions are written for the most part in our conservation subdivision ordinance to kind of create smaller lots, you got to have so many open space, potentially that greenway right of way and all that other stuff. And I showed him the plat already has the right of way there. And I said, you know, this is something that we have a greenway and trail master plan. This is something that council is really for, is this connectivity through the greenway and providing that access to the residents. I mean, it's quality of life. And
It's also an agreement that was made when that neighborhood was built, that
Yeah.
we would go in and build it. Like, for the preserve.
yeah.
So, I mean, he's gonna have it back there regardless of if
And
he
that's-
wants it or not.
That's
So-
what I did convey that to him. But it's, I think he's just unfamiliar with the history and stuff here. And I told him, you know, I said, I just started but I've been able to pick up and stuff. So I told him it would be a good opportunity for me to go back through certain things as well as and send him so he can see, okay, the community survey, the greenway plan, you know, this is why it's back there for one thing. And this is why this connectivity from here would be a really great thing.
Okay, here's what I'll commit to. I will reach out to Tommy again. I will say, hey, I'd like to have Kim, myself, maybe you and Derek,
Yeah.
and then go to, we start off at the trail, at the preserve, kind of show them kind of what we do, and you know, we have professional trail makers and what that looks like. And then if you, whatever date we pick, if you're prepared for the history and kind of can show maps of what the 50,000 foot level is and what it looks like. Again, a lot of these communities, they have to understand, a lot of these communities were done before the master trust. So now we're trying to put the square in the round peg,
Yep.
because it's like, oh, now we got to go ask for easements when we now know that we're saying to the developer, before you build, and we're if I've jumped out, before you build, you got to, how are you going to do connectivity?
Correct.
And it's on them to do it. Now we're doing it, it's our cost, and it's after the fact. We've run into it at other places, Tullamore, and so all we're doing is trying to make this connectable, because that's what everybody wanted, including Tommy, in
Yeah.
fairness. And I think I can totally understand his hesitancy, because you're new, and it's new neighbor, and it's, okay, what is this really gonna look like?
Yeah.
Is there really a concern? I would argue for anyone who's so concerned about any kind of traffic, just go look around, see how many people, there's not thousands, we only
Yeah.
have so many people, and it's just a way, and I can't see them coming off a trail just to go in the neighborhood. I would wanna stay in the trail, and, you know, rather than go walk on pavement. That's just me.
And that's what I did convey to them, that we, you know, this isn't something we're just doing for the first time here. I said, we do
Right.
have other developments that
Which
have
involve
done
a
this
lot
as
of
well.
them taking the easements. over
Correct.
stuff,
And
yeah.
so I did ask them to, you know, like get a chance to go look at some of these, but I think it would be good to take them out.
Yeah.
The one thing that Mr. Pratt did specifically ask for, sort of research data wise, was the impact of his property value, which the easement itself is not going to be on his property. So
Right.
it's not going to impact it. I told him, I said, you know, research that in developments I've been around, the access to greenway is just going to raise your property value because it's quality of life. It's you're providing an amenity access, and especially having it right there in your backyard per se, like it
So I
I think it
know.
really
can't impact it.
Depends on the
Well,
buyer.
yeah, and how nicely it's done and how it
Well, it
looks.
depends on the buyer too, whether they care about greenways or don't care about greenways.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's super subjective. I don't think you can really tell them that. But there are like walkways and walking paths in like Providence Downs. I know that they've got some things and they've got houses beside like where you go in, and those, I mean,
it's the same concept as, golf course, golf cart path, and fire.
Yeah.
You're having to go right beside houses. And I conveyed, I know there was discussion that Rohit had with them about, screening it. But, I don't know exactly what maybe that
just
was being.
screening. There was no.
Yeah, and
specifics,
so,
yeah.
that option's still on the table, and I said, obviously, I would want it to be in conjunction with, both property owners, make sure, we're not putting in bushes they're not happy with, / that are gonna look like crap, versus maybe not actually do the job.
Right.
So I think it's slowly working in him, making sure he's aware and understands the goal and intent behind this easement itself, and kind of that connectivity to the greenway, as well as, what we can do to make it not affect living there. per
Do
se.
their property lines run all the way to the gully, like where you would have to like cross over?
I think it runs to just at the creek, if I'm not mistaken.
but all the way to the edge of the creek?
Maybe, yes. I'd have to go pull it up on GIS, but like here's where the proposed easement was, because one, there's a sewer easement out there, and that's the other thing.
Which is really good. We can throw it right on top of there.
That's the other
What
thing.
is it?
There's a
Sewer
sewer
easement.
easement.
Yeah.
But that's, I can't really tell, like I said,
Okay.
without Zoom,
That's fine.
but I do know the original agreements that were proposed was one for the preserve, going onto their HOA property, as well as
Yep.
Mr. Whitehead. So there was two, because we are gonna cross over into the HOA property with this easement to
Yeah,
connect
because we
to.
would need that to connect to
Yeah.
what we already have.
So
And I
yeah,
would say still work on getting that to come across
Mhm.
because, you know, maybe we just.
So I will reach out to them and then I'll connect
People
with you
change
guys
too.
and figure
Yeah.
out what's a good time to meet and, you know.
That, once we get that easement, it's there. And if
I think-
people change, we could possibly get it and if, you know, whatever. There's options down the road.
I think if we show him directly, either, with the plans or specifically like where this isn't like, we're not asking something out of the ordinary here. I think he'll come around. And like I said, ultimately it's Mr. Whitehead's decision because it is on his property. The only concern he had was that I guess he's got only like 50, 60 foot of frontage and that would take up 20 feet of that. But because he
right
is,
by that junction, but like in
Yeah,
there,
I
like,
agree.
I mean,
Uh,
It's close to his driveway and.
well, it wouldn't be close to, so if
No, there's like a
it's
jump-
a
there's a-
cul-de-sac and there's a junction box here and this side of the junction box I think starts his property line and that's
Okay.
also the same of the easement.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it comes in and encroaches in.
And then his driveway is maybe, about 30, 40 feet.
I mean, we can make the beginning of the trailhead narrow
As
and
minimal as
then
possible, yeah.
and then widen it as you start to
Yeah.
go down. I mean, you're not gonna have 4 people.
Yeah, I
across.
mean, and here's the thing is, if you would accept that, what is it that you want? And then it comes back to
Yeah.
us where we decide is like, can we do
Okay,
that?
that works or that
You know?
doesn't work.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, anytime the week of the 16th.
Week of 16th.
Write it down.
I'm just gonna make a note.
Okay.
I'm good with that. That
Good
gives
with
me
that week?
2, yeah. So is there any other questions on Innisbrook?
No.
Okay, and I did not get a chance to kind of get some additional information from there, but I'm going to send a follow-up email with them, given those plans, and then, I can put in that email, I'd love to maybe have another chance to chat, or we can just let, the mayor reach out and do it that way, but I'm
Well,
definitely.
you should go and Derek should go.
I will definitely be at that
Okay.
meeting, and like I said, I'm going to, regardless, I'm sending out the follow-up email with, the additional information, just so they have it or have access.
Good. Perfect.
So, going into the next thing, kind of once again the point is the Bella Grove Trail.
Yeah.
Once again, it's on their plans. Developer wants to put it in. However, I think from my understanding that we are trying to then have the developer just pay a fee instead of actually installing it. And
Well,
council.
not for Parks Rec and Greenway. They want to keep it.
Or were y'all talking about still rerouting it?
It's,
Rerouting it,
the
but
big
keeping it.
concern is, the proximity to people's backyards, the terrible terrain, and the fact that it's redundant, because there's.
If they have, yeah, but the sidewalk's not
Side-
there yet.
Well, the road, I mean, the sidewalk
road,
goes up the
but-
road, and you've got connectivity to the power line and to the trail all along, what do you call it, road, so, I don't know, we got some major opposition from residents about it because of the proximity to their
But they
backyards.
also knew that it was
I
on
was
the
about,
plans.
I was about to say that I met with 2 of the property owners. They are currently getting signature petitions to have you to please ask you guys to not put it there, because the other issue we are running into outside behind the proximity of houses is stormwater.
Yeah, that was another concern that they
Stormwater drainage. I'm trying to figure, that's a whole nother topic that I'm dealing with and trying to work with Mike Walden on, because it's my 4th week here and I've had a call or a email about certain things with pictures, and it's like I've got to figure out if it's done correctly or not. And so I think that's also though what it's going to play into. If it's done correctly and it's still doing that, and there's really nothing we have legal standing to make them do because they're compliant with the state, compliant with what our ordinance states, then all that's going to do is create a bigger issue, and it's going to be our responsibility in the long run to maintain where that greenway is going to be.
Yeah, that was one of the big concerns that they brought up in that coffee with council meeting is is the water issue.
Yeah.
They've got a tremendous amount of water that comes down and floods their yards, and it will be a concern for our trail.
Well, but then Rohit was talking about rerouting it.
Well, yeah, there's a potential, but the problem that is over there, which is kind of unique to their situation, is because of that creek. They've had to move the houses to the very back of their lot, so they're like right on their lot line at the back of their house, and this is what these people are so concerned with. If their houses were skewed forward better, they wouldn't be looking out like from here to Joe's truck to the trail. It's that close in some areas. That's what their major concern is, and it's terrible topography there to build a trail on too. So
Well, I'm not saying necessarily build it, but don't necessarily get rid of the easement either.
well,
the
and
easement,
that's-
I think the easement would stay.
Stay.
They would have, what they would do, from my understanding, and Christine might be able to correct me, is that they would go get quotes on what it would cost to install it, and then they would pay that
yeah.
amount to us, and it goes into
But
our,
keep the easement.
keep the easement, correct.
Okay.
And then
Just
at a
don't
later
get rid of
date,
the
we could-
easement if
we
we
could-
wanna.
We could
have an option
utilize
down the
it
road.
there.
Doesn't have to be done right.
Right.
Unless the terms of it, we could utilize it putting a greenway there or putting a greenway somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Well, I'd also like to, because apparently the sidewalk's not finished, it's like one part of a sidewalk here, part of a sidewalk there, part of a sidewalk, like, it's
Yeah.
not, so that would need to be.
But
And
with that though, they are finishing the development.
Yeah.
They're actively finishing the development, so
Yeah.
the sidewalk isn't that far out from being completed.
Okay.
So I think the sidewalk probably will get completed before this trail could get built anyway.
Anyway, okay, well, just as long as we're not getting rid of the easement, I would just like to keep that.
And that's just the thing, is I haven't had any conversation with some of the developers, because they were supposed, from my understanding with talking to the property owners, that Rohit said that the developer was supposed to start this fall on building the greenway. Now, I don't know, there's been 2 permits for houses issued prior to me getting here. I've got 3 back there that I haven't issued yet, because I'm trying to make sure they are compliant with their tree and grading stuff. It's just because of the concerns of property owners, and I'm like, I'm not going to issue something. But with that being said, I don't know if they have a plan to maybe not develop some lots, because they've graded pretty much every lot out there. But that's kind of what also does concern me, is maybe that was compliant, but some lots are just not meant to be developable. And when you grade it a certain way, you're going to create the stormwater issue. I mean, you're going to create greater issues. And so I think if it gets built out on top of the greenway, I don't know, we're going to have long-term problems over there, and with the village taking over the greenway and everything else, I would rather make sure everything gets taken care of before it gets to that point.
So you're,
Yeah.
so basically you're still working on it.
Yeah.
So-
Okay.
I just needed some direction. I mean, it's
I just
yeah.
don't, just don't get rid of the easement.
I'm gonna suggest this, because sometimes it's just a suggestion. Words, what you're saying and stuff like that, but when you have those issues, just going forward, something to suggest, that if you're going to do a site visit, let us know via email, hey,
Yeah.
issue with property thing, because if I'm available, I'd actually like to go out there with you and look at it and see what we're dealing with facing, so
Yeah.
then I can have a working knowledge when I come to the meeting and say, okay,
Yeah.
let me explain this, or,
And the same thing with me, and I
Not with
have
me, I'm good.
many
I like
years
to-
of
I guess I get
experience
my
with
fingers dirty, so.
grading and construction and landscaping
Just
and all
send
that
it out,
stuff.
just
So
an email.
yeah.
that a second set of eyes on it, or whatever. Anything you want to roll off me, go ahead and reach out to me, because I've just had so many years' experience.
And you know what, it
with
gives
stuff.
that property owner too, if they're there, when you're there to look at it,
Concern.
if,
Yeah.
sometimes that happens, Rohit goes out and the property owner's there, or owners, and they have someone to talk to that's, make a decision, and.
Yeah, I think that's just, I think the problem with this development is what scares me, is that this is their third or fourth developer in there.
Trust me, so many things were wrong with what they did, no curb and gutter there, so many things that
Yeah.
former councils before me missed, and they're, we should have done that, we should have done that, so
Yeah.
now that we're almost built out, we know all the things we should do, and it's costing us now, so.
Yeah, and that's what I want to make sure with this, and like I said, before I issue any more zoning permits, make sure that was done to comply to what was issued for grading and tree removal. Which, I guess the last thing, if we're I can spin into my last update, is
One second. I just want to mention just one angle to this whole invite you guys to site visits. He can definitely try to send you an email, but I just don't want it to get time consuming with staff trying to cancel members out to site visits and then having potential.
Oh, no, I'm not suggesting, Christina, that, him work with my schedule. I'm saying, hey, I'm gonna have this, you make the appointment on your time, and
Okay.
by sending an email to us, he knows, I know, maybe Jamie knows, maybe Bob wants to go out and walk, and just, if we can make it, we make it, but we just can't have a full quorum, that's
Yeah,
all.
that's all.
Okay, yeah, I just wanna make sure we're all on the same page with that.
Yep,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Definitely your schedule, not ours.
Yep, okay.
All about you guys.
Well, we're working with them, to
Yeah.
make it about them.
To support
That's what I'm
them.
saying, it's all
Exactly.
about them.
The last thing I'll mention, getting into the trees, is that I had a meeting with the urban forest, the new county urban forestry guy yesterday, which that position's been vacant for 6 months. So that also could be some of the reason that got into this. But we had a really good chat, and I think he's going to be coming to that site visit as well. And he's also going to take a part into what we end up doing with MHD to make sure that, the greenery and all that stuff is good, healthy, and going to, one, be cohesive with what we're trying to do, but as well as still have that, conservation feel, with what type of tree and stuff like that. So all of that's going to be kind of taken into consideration in this. So it was a really good meeting.
And even maybe what the what do you call it, the streetscape
Mhm.
looks like, and what kind of trees he would recommend
Yeah.
if we were to do that. That would be helpful, that aren't creating the problem that they're having over at Amber Meadows,
Yeah,
where that sidewalk is now being lifted because
correct. That was,
they put the wrong tree or too close, and the roots are coming up and stuff like that. So that'd be very helpful.
and it's the same thing. He informed me, like, even with some of these subdivisions now, like if it was Amber Meadows, that he's being contracted / he's here to go out and make sure, like, hey, what type of tree is put in, to make sure it's not going to cause that issue.
Effect. Yep.
So, especially
Okay.
before, developer closes out or we issue that compliance, that's what his role is.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
I have a question.
Anything else? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You got a question for me?
I do, but are you done with your report?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. RV lot?
Oh, well, I was gonna bring that up, because
RV lot? Excuse me?
the corner of, what,
It's Henry Nesbitt and Waxaw Marvin.
Not Marvin, or is Marvin?
it's not
Nah.
Marvin. From my understanding, he's petitioned to annex in for this certain reason. You guys have denied it. With that being said, he's went to the county.
Sure.
I got notification from the county that he's applied for rezoning. I don't know when the community meeting is, but when I definitely know the date, I will let you know.
I just realized something.
What?
That parcel is a transition zone, and the county's supposed to defer to us for all future rezonings and transition zones.
And maybe that's
a
why
donut
it's,
hole.
and maybe that's why it's coming to,
That means it has to come to here,
So it has to come here.
and they'd have to annex in.
potentially, yeah. I'm not.
We'll look into
But
it.
we can annex them in, but just deny what they want to do.
With that being
Correct.
said, the original meeting was scheduled for sometime in August. However, the county sent back stuff that the applicant had to fix in their application and proposal.
Okay.
So the county told me they would let me know the date of the community meeting in September, and I'll make sure you guys are.
But I wanted to let them know.
Yeah. That's
You
good.
remember
information.
this?
I was gonna
this
do
guy.
it
It's
here,
the 3
right.
acres that we tried to
Oh,
buy.
Yeah,
That's
Joe and I,
same-
they came in and
yeah.
proposed all this, and Joe and I were
Right.
like,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
Joe was
not-
like.
down the street. Please confirm that is actually, the transition zones are something that we control.
Mm-hmm.
And if I need to reach out to anyone at the county level, because
It's the county comp plan that they just
Okay.
adopted.
I guarantee you I will make hay of this, because that's not, I'm sorry, it doesn't fit in
Mhm.
anything, because we may end up in the end taking on Marvin.
Chimneys.
Chimneys, right there, that may come into Marvin, based on what I'm seeing, right?
Potentially, I remember this being discussed in WUMA about those transition zones too, that the
The-
county is deferring to us if it's within.
The only hang-up is if they started their application before the plan was adopted, because then they'd probably be grandfathered in, probably.
But then you still can fight it to have them deny it, the county deny
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
and stuff, because
But we
I
need to
think
be-
they understand why we form WUMA. I mean, we will bring that issue up for WUMA too, so we now have two things to bring up to WUMA. But, I think that's
You guys
important,
have a WOMA meeting today?
No,
not today.
it was last week and I had need to bring him up to speed with what was going on, but
Okay. So I still have a meeting after this, just to be clear. It
No, you
sounds like
don't.
I'm getting lunch.
Let's get moving.
You just said it was last week.
I've got something
I
for you.
haven't heard about what.
I've got something for you to sign too, so don't leave.
Okay, so what do we?
That was it. I
You're
just
all
wanted
done.
them to
Thank
know.
you. Thanks, Kim, for that.
You're
Yeah, it
welcome.
was
Also-
going to be on the next, I was gonna have it on my report next.
Agenda items, review of
Put
action.
it on there
items.
again.
Okay.
Okay, for action items,
On the action item list. What do we got?
action items, I'm putting a bunch of stuff on the consent agenda. Got a budget amendment.
Set it right
Got a budget amendment. The council meeting schedule minutes. The Marvin Heritage District rules of procedure. You guys will hear the BOA application again. We'll have the local bill on the next agenda. We'll revise that memo a little bit with a bit on the history of Marvin, some water and sewer stuff. We'll add Woodhall and Rosecliff to the map. Me and Hunter will work on that. We'll work on the fall town hall meeting. We probably won't really jump into a lot of that till we get a little closer. We've tabled the youth council, but it'll stay on the action item list. Hunter and Tom, they have their direction on the MHD. You want to give a summary to put on the list, or well, I'll get up with you on that to get the exact wording down. But and then Hunter won't get rid of the easement, but we'll continue to work on alternatives for the Bell Grove Trail. And I'm not sure if there's anything else there.
Christina, you got anything else?
No, I'm good. We'll work on the well location.
Okay. Okay, signs. What is the signs on here, Christine? To discuss assessing village signs with engineer Mike Walden. What signs are those?
That is some signs that were apparently wobbly. There were a couple of street signs that were not completely intact, and we just haven't got around to getting to that issue.
Okay. All right. When is my welcome sign going to get installed?
It's in her office.
Oh, I know. I've seen it. But it's not doing me any good sitting in our office.
Whenever Derek can get to it, it's on his list.
When's Derek going to get to it? Okay.
Call him and ask him.
Oh, I will. Are we good with Village Hall and sewer? Issue notices to proceed and sign the contracts for sanitary sewer and Village Hall project?
Yes, we did that last week.
All right, can you,
Where am I looking at?
no, middle of the page, 325.
Ah. Okay.
Okay, and have we signed the agreement for the well, Christina?
Well, no, with transitions on.
Yes.
Yes, okay, so you can do that one too. We've signed the contract.
Something else.
Okay, that was it.
Yeah.
Easy peasy, put it in pie.
I just wrote it down. Okay, thank you all.
Do you guys even pay attention to what we mark off?
Yeah,
on
I
the
was at the very end. what
Nope,
we marked
not
off
paying
and stuff,
attention.
so. Moving forward, council comments. Bob.
Really, no comments other than, again, welcome aboard, Hunter.
man.
You got your plate full.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for what you do.
Full month later, it's welcoming you.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I agree. I appreciate how fast you gotten up to speed in a short amount of time and drinking from a fire hydrant, as they say.
There's still more to learn, but I mean, it's been good to kind of just be thrown into certain things and just, I mean, you got to learn quick.
Yeah,
And he's great to work with, by the way.
terrific. Thank you.
Just wanted to, thank you for your hard work, and just to let you know that if there's anything that you need from me, I'm always available. I'm willing to put in. Oh, don't even. Don't even. So.
We'll call you anyways just to see if you're available.
Yeah, so, but yeah, I'm always just a phone call away, and if I can get away to meet you for whatever purposes, just let me know, and I'll be glad to do what I can.
All right, thank you.
Nope, I got nothing.
You got, really? You got nothing to say?
There's Derek right there. Person pulling in.
Yes, score.
I actually have a lot to say. No, I don't.
No,
I really
please
don't. Had just on a personal note, had a great trip to Alaska, and I just got a text saying that good timing because they had an 8.2
They had a hurricane. I mean, an earthquake.
Earthquake just today, I guess. So Good timing.
I'm going next year.
So you're going next year.
Mhm.
But again, a reiteration, school's coming up, so 23rd.
Slow down.
Slow down out there, and again, thank you, staff, for everything you did. Thanks, Christina. Sorry you weren't here, but but
I need a motion to
appreciate
adjourn.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
12:18.
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
You made it.
Motion
I made the
passes.
motion.
All right.
Bye, Mom.